Rain was normal in Forks. It fell in steady lines through tall trees and wet ferns. It turned the ground into dark mud. It made the whole forest smell like cold leaves and old wood. Bella Swan had seen storms before. Forks had storms all the time. But this one felt different. She was in the passenger seat of Edward's car, her hands tucked under her sleeves, watching the road disappear into gray. Edward's face was calm, but Bella knew him too well. His eyes were locked on the trees, like he was listening to a sound she could not hear. "What is it?" she asked. Edward did not answer right away. He slowed down. "I don't know," he said. His voice was low. "But something is wrong." Then Bella felt it too. Not a sound. The opposite of sound. The forest went quiet in a way that did not match nature. No birds, no bugs, no wind in the branches. Edward stopped the car on the shoulder. The rain tapped on the roof. He tilted his head like he was trying to catch a whisper. Bella swallowed. "Are we leaving?" Edward's eyes flicked to her. "Stay in the car." He was out before she could argue. He moved into the trees like a shadow that did not make noise. Bella should have stayed put. She didn't. She waited 5 seconds, then 10. Her heart started to kick hard in her chest. She opened the door and stepped into the rain. "Edward," she called, trying to keep her voice quiet. She followed the direction he went, not deep into the forest, just enough to see between the trunks. And then she saw it. A tall, black line hung in the air between 2 trees. It was not a crack in bark. It was not a trick of light. Looked like someone had sliced the world open. The edges of it pulsed, like heat waves, but cold. The rain did not fall through it. The drops stopped and slid away, like the air there was pushing them aside. Bella's mouth went dry. Edward stood several steps ahead of her. His body was still. His eyes were wide in a way she almost never saw. "Bella," he said without looking back. "Go. Now." But Bella could not move. The black line widened. The air around it pressed down. Bella's ears popped like she was underwater for 1 second. And then someone stepped out. He was a young man. He looked human. He looked normal in the simple ways. Dark hair wet from rain, plain black clothes. No strange smell reached Bella's nose, but Edward's posture changed like a switch had flipped. The stranger did not stumble. He did not look confused. He looked like someone who had walked out of one dangerous place and was checking if the next place was worse. His eyes were dark and steady. He glanced at the trees, then at the sky, then at the wet ground. His gaze moved fast, but his face stayed calm. He lifted one hand, palm up, like he was testing the air. Then he looked at nothing. Not at Edward. Not at Bella. At nothing. His eyes unfocused for half a second, like he was reading words that were not there. Bella frowned. "Is he texting in his head?" Edward's jaw tightened. "He's not thinking like a human," Edward muttered. It sounded like he was talking to himself. Bella took 1 step back. A twig snapped under her shoe. The stranger's head turned at once. His eyes locked onto her. He did not look hungry. He did not look scared. He looked alert. Edward was between them in a blink. "Don't move," Edward said, voice sharp. The stranger's eyes shifted to Edward. He stared for 1 beat. Then his gaze dropped to Edward's hands, to his stance, to the way his weight sat on his feet. Like a fighter studying another fighter. He spoke in a calm voice with a light accent. "Where am I?" Edward did not answer. Bella saw the stranger's eyes flick again, like he was checking that invisible thing. Then something else happened. 2 shapes moved through the trees on the left. Fast, too fast for a human. Bella's breath caught. 2 men stepped into the clearing. They were beautiful in a hard, wrong way. Their eyes were red. Their smiles were sharp. Nomads. Bella had heard stories. Edward's body went rigid with anger. The two vampires ignored Edward. Their eyes went straight to the stranger, then to Bella. One of them licked his lips. "Lucky night." Edward's voice dropped into a growl. "Leave." The vampires laughed. The stranger's gaze slid to them. He did not step back. He did not even blink fast. The vampire closest to him moved first. A blur, a hand reaching for the stranger's throat. Bella did not even see the hit. The stranger tilted his head, just slightly, like he was bored. A shadow rose from the ground and grabbed the vampire's arm. Not a normal shadow. It was thick, like black smoke shaped into a hand. The vampire froze mid-lunge, his face twisted in surprise. The second vampire jumped back, then launched forward from another angle, trying to get around the dark grip. The stranger lifted his other hand. The air itself seemed to shove. The second vampire slammed into a tree, hard enough to shake leaves loose. He hit like a stone thrown by a giant. Bella's eyes widened. Her mind struggled to keep up. Edward stared too. The first vampire fought the shadow hand, snarling, trying to tear free. The stranger finally moved. He stepped in close. His hand flashed. Bella saw the glint of a black blade. He struck once, clean and fast. The vampire's arm came off at the shoulder. It should have been impossible. Vampires were like stone, strong, hard to break. The vampire screamed. The sound was high and angry. The stranger did not flinch. More black shapes rose behind him. Soldiers, not living men, not dead men. Something in between. They stood straight like trained guards. Their eyes were empty. Their armor looked like dark metal made from night. Edward's lips parted. "What are you?" The stranger did not answer. His soldiers moved as one. They pinned the vampire to the ground. They held his limbs apart like they were restraining a wild animal. The second vampire burst out of the tree and charged again, faster, furious. A tall shadow soldier stepped forward with a sword. One slash. The vampire's head flew off. The body fell in pieces. Bella's stomach dropped. She wanted to scream, but nothing came out. The stranger stared at the pieces for a second. His expression did not change. Then he looked at his own hand again. That same half-second pause. His eyes flicked like he was reading that invisible screen. A quiet, almost tired breath left him. Edward took one step forward, slow, careful, like he was approaching a bomb. Bella heard Edward whisper, "I can't hear him. I can't hear his thoughts." That was worse than anything else. Edward always heard thoughts. Always. The stranger turned toward Edward again. His soldiers did not attack, but they shifted, placing themselves in small angles around him like a shield. Bella realized they were not random. They were organized. The stranger spoke again, calm and flat. "You're not human." Edward's eyes narrowed. "Neither are you." The stranger's gaze flicked to Bella behind Edward. For one small moment, his face softened. Not kindness, more like a decision. "Human," he said, pointing his chin toward Bella. "She should leave." Edward's body tensed. The stranger looked back into the trees. He scanned the dark like he expected more enemies. And somewhere deep in that rain-soaked forest, Bella had the sudden sick feeling that this was not the end of the problem. This was the beginning. Carlisle Cullen's house smelled like clean wood and warm light. Bella had never been so glad to see it. Edward brought her in fast, his hands gentle but firm on her shoulders. He did not scold her. He did not need to. His face said everything. Carlisle was already waiting, like he had been expecting the storm to knock on the door. Alice stood beside him, eyes bright and scared at the same time. Emmett leaned against the wall, trying to look relaxed and failing. Jasper's jaw was tight, like he was holding back a reaction he didn't want anyone else to feel. Rosalie's eyes were hard and cold. Esme moved to Bella at once. "Are you hurt?" Bella shook her head too quickly. "No." But the front door opened. The stranger stepped inside. He didn't push. He didn't sneak. He walked in like he had entered many dangerous places and was ready for the next one. Behind him, the shadow soldiers did not march through the door. They melted into the floor like smoke sinking into the ground. Bella shivered. It felt like the room got colder, even though it did not. Carlyle took one step forward. His voice was gentle. "My name is Carlyle. You are safe here, as long as you do not mean harm." The stranger's eyes moved across them. Bella watched him study each face. He paused on Edward, then on Jasper, like he could feel something sharp under the calm. Then his eyes landed on Carlyle again. "I don't want harm," he said. He stopped. His gaze flicked away again for that half second. Bella couldn't help it. "Are you okay?" she blurted. The stranger looked at her. His face stayed neutral. "I'm fine." Then, like he was answering a different question, he added, "I'm checking something." Edward's voice came out tight. "What are you checking?" The stranger stared at him. Bella expected anger. Instead, the stranger looked tired. "My status," he said simply, as if everyone had one. "My quests. My resources." Emmett blinked. "Your what?" Alice's eyes narrowed. "I can't see you," she whispered. Bella looked at her. "What do you mean?" Alice shook her head fast. "When I try, it's like a wall, or like static, like the future around him won't hold still." Edward's hands curled into fists. "And I can't read him." Carlyle raised a hand, calming, steady. "Let's slow down." Carlyle turned to the stranger. "What is your name?" The stranger hesitated. Bella felt the small weight of it, the way he measured whether giving a name was safe. "Sung Jin-Woo," he said. Carlyle nodded like he was meeting a new patient. "Jin-Woo, thank you." Edward watched Jin-Woo like a predator watching a new predator. Jin-Woo met his stare without flinching. Carlyle kept his voice calm. "You look human? You feel warm? May I ask you a question?" Jin-Woo nodded once. Carlyle pointed softly at Bella. "You protected her? Why?" Jin-Woo glanced at Bella. His eyes did not soften again, but his answer came fast. "Because she's human," he said, "and those things wanted to eat her." Bella's throat tightened. It should have sounded scary. Somehow, it sounded simple, like stating a fact. Carlyle asked, "Those things, you knew what they were?" Jin-Woo shook his head. "Not exactly." Edward leaned forward. "They were vampires." Jin-Woo's expression changed a little. Not shock. More like he filed away the word. "Vampires," he repeated. "Okay." Rosalie's lip curled. He says okay like it's a grocery list. Esme shot Rosalie a warning look. Jin-Woo did not react. Carlyle moved closer. Slow. "May I examine you? Just basic. No harm." Jin-Woo looked down at Carlyle's hands, then at Carlyle's face. He nodded once again. Carlyle's fingers touched Jin-Woo's wrist. Bella watched Carlyle's eyes shift as he felt a pulse. "He's alive," Carlyle said softly, almost to himself. "He has a heartbeat." Edward's stare sharpened. "Then how?" Carlyle stood straight. "He's something new, or something from somewhere else." Jin-Woo's eyes flicked away again. Half-second. Invisible reading. Bella's nerves snapped. "Stop doing that," she said, then instantly regretted it. Edward looked like he might yell at her, but Jin-Woo just looked at Bella and said, "Calm. It's a habit." That made Emmett laugh once, short and nervous. "Buddy, your habits are creepy." Jasper's eyes stayed locked on Jin-Woo. "He's not afraid," Jasper said quietly. "Not even a little." Jin-Woo turned his head to Jasper. "Why would I be?" The room went silent. Because they were monsters. Because they were fast. Because even Bella, who loved them, still got scared sometimes. Jin-Woo didn't say any of that. He didn't need to. He said it like he was asking a real question. Edward's voice came out sharp again. "Because we could rip you apart?" Jin-Woo stared at Edward. Bella expected a threat. Instead, Jin-Woo said, "Then you would try." Edward's teeth flashed. Carlyle stepped between them before the tension could snap. "Edward." Edward's shoulders lifted and fell once. He looked away. "Barely." Carlyle turned to Jin-Woo again. "You came through. Something in the forest." "A gate," Jin-Woo said. "A gate to where?" Carlyle asked. Jin-Woo took a breath. His eyes dropped for a second, like he was choosing what to share. "My world has gates," he said. "They open. Monsters come out. Hunters go in. We kill them before they kill people." Bella's mind spun. Hunters. Monsters. Gates. It sounded like a game, but the way he said it did not sound like a joke. Carlyle's face stayed calm, but his eyes were serious. "And you are a hunter?" Jin-Woo nodded. "Yes," Edward's voice cut in. "And the soldiers?" Jin-Woo's gaze slid toward the floor where the shadows had vanished. "My army," he said. Rosalie scoffed. "Of course." Bella hugged her arms. "Are they people?" Jin-Woo looked at her for a long moment. "They were," he said. "Now they are mine." Bella flinched at the word mine. Carlyle didn't. He only asked gently, "Do they suffer?" Jin-Woo answered without drama. "No." Jasper's eyes narrowed. "How do you know?" Jin-Woo's voice stayed flat. "Because I would not use them if they did." That was the first time Bella heard something like a moral line in his voice. Not warm, not sweet, but firm. Alice suddenly grabbed the back of a chair like she needed it to stand. Carlyle looked at her. "Alice." Alice shook her head fast. "I just got another flash. It's broken. Like pieces." Edward moved to her side. "What did you see?" Alice's eyes darted around the room, as if the images were still in the air. Forks covered in shadows, the wolves in the rain, the Volturi standing in a circle, and him, she pointed at Jin-Woo, standing in the middle like he's deciding whether this place is worth saving. Edward's jaw clenched. Bella felt a cold wave move through her, even though she was standing in a warm house. Jin-Woo looked at Alice. "Volturi." Carlyle's face changed. It wasn't fear, exactly. It was the look of someone thinking about a dangerous law. "The Volturi are our government," Carlyle said carefully. Emmett muttered. "More like our executioners." Jin-Woo's eyes flicked away again. Half-second. Habit. Bella blurted, "Do you have to do that right when things get scary?" Jin-Woo looked at her. For the first time, the corner of his mouth moved. Not a smile. A tiny twitch, like he almost understood the joke. "It gets worse when I don't," he said. Edward watched him like that small twitch was another warning sign. Carlyle folded his hands. "For now, you can stay here. We can help you understand where you are." Jin-Woo's eyes were steady. "And you will watch me?" Carlyle did not deny it. "Yes." Jin-Woo accepted that, like it was normal. Edward took a slow breath. "If you hurt her," Jin-Woo cut him off, calm. "I won't." Edward's eyes narrowed. "Because you like humans?" Jin-Woo paused. His eyes flicked away again. Then he said, simple and honest, "Because I don't need to." That made the room colder than any storm. Bella swallowed. Carlyle kept his voice even. "There is another problem. The wolves." As if Carlyle had summoned them, the air outside changed. The house felt surrounded. Bella's heart jumped. Jacob. Edward's face darkened. They're here. Jin-Woo looked toward the window. His head tilted slightly. He could sense them. Not by smell. Not like a vampire. Something else. The front door shook once, like someone hit it with a fist. Then a voice from outside, loud and angry. "Open the door!" Edward moved, but Carlyle raised a hand again. "I'll handle it." Carlyle opened the door. Rain blew in. On the porch stood Jacob Black, soaked, eyes fierce. Behind him, other boys stood in the rain too, bigger than normal, too still. Bella knew what they were. Jacob's gaze locked on Bella first, then shot to Edward, then to Carlyle. Then his eyes found Jin-Woo. Jacob's face twisted like he smelled something wrong. "Who is that?" Edward stepped forward. "Not your business." Jacob's hands curled into fists. "Everything in this town is my business if it threatens her." Bella's chest tightened. "He means me." Jin-Woo watched Jacob like he was watching a new type of hunter. Jacob pointed at the floor inside the house. "I can feel it. Something dark is in here." Jin-Woo's eyes flicked away again. Bella almost groaned. "Not now." Jin-Woo looked back at Jacob. "Your senses are good." Jacob's eyes narrowed. "Don't talk to me like you know me." Carlyle kept his voice calm. "Jacob, we are trying to understand what happened in the forest." Jacob snapped. "I heard things. I felt it. That wasn't a normal fight." Edward's voice was tight. "Nothing is normal anymore." Jacob took one step forward onto the porch, shoulders squared. "If this is some new vampire trick..." Jin-Woo moved. Not fast enough to look like teleporting, fast enough to make Bella blink. He was suddenly in front of Carlyle, closer to the doorway, but still inside. Still not touching anyone. Still controlled. His voice stayed calm. "I'm not with them." Jacob's nostrils flared. "Then what are you?" Jin-Woo's eyes held Jacob's. "I'm a hunter," he said. Jacob looked confused for half a second. Then his expression hardened again. "Hunters don't bring darkness with them." Jin-Woo's gaze dropped to Jacob's hands, then to his posture, then to the group behind him. "You're not human either," Jin-Woo said. Jacob's eyes widened, then narrowed. "Say that again." Edward's body tensed like a wire. Carlyle stepped in quickly. "Enough. No one is fighting on my porch." Jin-Woo didn't move closer. He didn't threaten. He only said, "I don't care what you are. I care what you do." Jacob stared at him. Rain dripped off Jacob's hair. His voice came out lower. "And what are you going to do?" Jin-Woo's eyes flicked away again, then back. "I'm going to stop monsters," he said. "If you get in my way, I'll move you." That should have sounded like a threat, but it sounded like a rule. Jacob's face went red with anger. Bella stepped forward, voice shaking but loud enough. "Stop! Both of you!" Everyone paused, even Edward. Bella looked at Jacob. "He saved me." Jacob's gaze snapped to her. "Bella!" Bella looked at Jin-Woo. "And he didn't hurt anyone." Jin-Woo said nothing, but his face stayed calm, like he understood that Bella was trying to keep the room from exploding. Carlyle took that moment and spoke like a leader. "Jacob, tell Sam this. We will not attack. We will observe. If this man hurts humans, you will have your reason. If he protects humans, you will not." Jacob's jaw worked like he wanted to argue, but he looked at Bella again. Then he backed up one step. "Fine," he spat. "But we're watching." He turned, and the boys behind him moved with him into the rain. The porch was quiet again. Carlyle shut the door. Edward exhaled slowly. Bella realized her hands were shaking. Jin-Woo looked at Carlyle. "So, you have vampires, wolves, laws, secrets." Carlyle nodded once. "Yes." Jin-Woo's gaze slid toward the window, toward the dark forest beyond. And now, Jin-Woo said softly, you have gates. Edward's eyes narrowed. If the Volturi hear about this, Carlyle's voice was gentle, but firm. They will, Alice whispered, almost to herself. They already are. Bella turned to Alice. What? Alice swallowed. I didn't see it before, but now I keep getting one clear picture. Edward's face tightened. Tell me. Alice's voice dropped. A man with long black hair. A smile that feels friendly until it isn't. He's holding someone's hand. Bella didn't know him, but she knew the fear in Alice's voice. Carlyle's expression went still. Arrow. Jin-Woo watched them all. He looked at nothing again for half a second. Then he said, almost like he was thinking out loud, so the strong ones here are watching the board. Edward's eyes locked on him. What board? Jin-Woo looked straight at Edward. The world. The pieces. Edward didn't like that answer. Bella didn't either. Outside, the rain kept falling. Inside, the house felt like a place that had just become a target. 3 days later, Forks tried to be normal again. School buses rolled down wet roads. People bought coffee. Charlie Swan complained about weather. Bella sat in the cafeteria, pretending her sandwich was interesting. Edward sat beside her, too still, listening to every thought around them like he always did. But his attention kept flicking past the windows, toward the trees. Bella leaned close. He's still here, right? Edward nodded once. Jin-Woo was at the Cullen house. Carlyle had offered him a room. Jin-Woo had accepted like it was a safe house. He did not sleep much. Bella knew that because she had seen him once at night through a window, standing in the rain like it didn't matter, just standing and looking at nothing, like he was reading that invisible list. Alice had tried to bring him clothes. He had stared at the pile of shirts like it was a trap. He had taken one black hoodie and left the rest. That had made Emmett laugh. That had made Rosalie roll her eyes. That had made Edward look even more worried. Because the more normal Jin-Woo tried to look, the less normal he felt. Bella's phone buzzed. A text from Alice. Come now. Please. Bella looked up at Edward. He had already seen it on her screen. We're going. The drive to the Cullen house felt too quiet. When they arrived, the front door was open. Carlyle stood in the entryway, face serious. Alice paced behind him like a trapped bird. Jasper stood still, jaw tight. Emmett wasn't joking today. Rosalie stared out the window like she expected an attack. Esme hovered near Carlyle, hands clasped, and Jin-Woo stood in the middle of the room, calm as ever. But his shadows were different. Bella felt it before she saw it. They were closer, more present, like the air had gained extra weight. A tall shadow soldier stood behind Jin-Woo like a bodyguard. Another stood near the stairs. They did not move, but Bella knew they were watching everything. Edward's face was rigid. What happened? Alice pointed at Jin-Woo, then at the floor. It's him. Not him, but the thing around him. Bella looked at Jin-Woo. Did you do something? Jin-Woo's eyes flicked away for half a second. Then he said, Something is opening. Carlyle's voice stayed steady. Where? Jin-Woo turned his head toward the north, toward the road that led out of town. Near the highway, he said. Close to people. Edward's eyes sharpened. How do you know? Jin-Woo's answer was simple. My shadows felt it. Emmett muttered, That is not creepy at all. Jin-Woo ignored that. Carlyle moved at once. We go. Edward turned to Bella. You stay. Bella opened her mouth. Edward cut her off. Bella. She shut it. She hated it. But she understood. Carlyle hesitated, then said gently, Bella, please. Bella nodded, tight. Fine. She watched them leave like a storm of fast bodies. And then she did the one thing she always did. She followed. Not right away. Not close. But close enough. Forks Highway was a thin line of wet pavement through dark trees. When Bella got near, she saw cars stopped, hazard lights flashing, people standing outside, confused, scared. And in the ditch beside the road, the world was broken open again. A black gate hung in the air, taller than a truck. The rain did the same thing it had before, sliding away. Edward stood near the front of the stopped cars, moving people back with a voice that sounded calm even when it wasn't. Carlisle was farther ahead, checking for injured. Emmett and Jasper were already a blur near the tree line. Alice stood near Carlisle, eyes darting, trying to see the next second and failing. Then Bella saw the wolves, huge shapes in the trees, dark fur, eyes reflecting light. Jacob's wolf was there, pacing like he wanted to charge the gate itself. Sam's wolf stood in front, still, like a wall, and in the center of it all stood Jin-Woo. He faced the gate. His shoulders were relaxed. His face was empty of fear. It looked like he had been born for moments like this. The gate pulsed. A sound came from inside it, not a roar, more like scraping and wet breathing. Then something dropped out. A creature hit the ground on 4 limbs, big, low, muscles thick under dark skin. Its mouth was full of teeth. It was not a bear. It was not a cougar. It looked like something that belonged in a nightmare, but it moved with real weight and real hunger. It snapped its head toward the nearest car. A woman screamed. The creature launched. It did not reach the car. A black spear shot out of the ground and stabbed the pavement in front of it, forcing it to stop. A shadow soldier rose behind the spear. Then another creature fell out of the gate. Then another. Pack! Bella's heart hammered. Edward's voice cut through the chaos. Get back! Run to the trees! People stumbled away, slipping on wet gravel. Carlisle grabbed a man who had fallen and hauled him up with too much strength, then eased his grip to look normal. Jasper moved like a streak, pulling a child out of the path of a snapping mouth. Emmett slammed into one creature like a truck and threw it off the road. The wolves burst forward in a line, snarling, teeth bared, trying to keep the monsters away from the humans. And Jin-Woo lifted one hand. The ground behind him darkened. Shadows rose like soldiers standing up from sleep. Not 1, not 5. Dozens. They came up in rows, filling the road edges, the ditch, the space between trees. Bella felt her breath leave her. The monsters froze for half a second. Even they could sense it. Jin-Woo spoke, his voice calm and clear. Protect the civilians. The shadow soldiers moved. They did not charge like animals. They moved like a trained team. 2 shadows ran to the cars, their arms stretching into solid shapes to block claws. Others moved into the trees, forming a barrier line so monsters could not break through toward people running. One shadow lifted a flipped motorcycle with one hand and set it aside like it weighed nothing. Bella's mind screamed, "This is impossible." Edward's eyes flashed toward Jin-Woo, and Bella could almost feel what Edward felt. Not jealousy, not anger, a cold, sharp calculation. If he wanted us dead, we would be dead. More monsters poured out. A larger one came last. It stepped through the gate slowly. Like it was not rushing because it knew it did not need to. It was taller than the rest. Its shoulders were broad. Its skin looked like dark stone with wet shine. Its eyes were bright and focused, not wild. It sniffed the air. Then it looked straight at Jin-Woo. Bella felt sick. The boss creature moved first. It sprinted across the ditch and launched at Jin-Woo with a swing that could have crushed a car door. Jin-Woo didn't dodge backward. He stepped in. He caught the creature's arm with one hand. The impact cracked the pavement under his feet. Bella's eyes widened. Vampires were strong. Wolves were strong. But this was like watching two machines collide. The creature tried to pull free. Jin-Woo's grip didn't move. Jin-Woo's other hand flashed. A black dagger appeared like it had always been there. He stabbed once. The blade sank into the creature's stone-like skin like it was soft. The creature roared. It swung its other arm. Jin-Woo tilted his head and leaned aside just enough for the blow to miss. Then he drove his knee up into the creature's chest. The boss flew backward, sliding across wet ground, carving a path in mud. Edward's head snapped toward Bella's hiding spot for one instant, like he sensed her there. His eyes widened, furious. Bella shrank back behind a tree, heart pounding. She forced herself to watch from the side. The wolves were fighting hard. They ripped at smaller monsters, dragging them away from humans. But the monsters kept coming. They were too many. Emmett tore one creature in half and threw the pieces into the ditch. Jasper moved like a dancer, snapping necks, tossing bodies into places the humans couldn't see. Carlisle was everywhere at once, pulling people out, pushing them down, shielding them with his own body. Alice grabbed a teenage boy and yanked him behind a truck before a claw could grab his ankle. Then she froze, eyes wide, seeing something too late. The boss creature sprang up again. It didn't go for Jin-Woo this time. It jumped toward the humans, toward the cluster of cars and panicked people, toward Carlisle. Bella's throat tightened. Edward launched too, a blur of white speed. But Jin-Woo moved first. He vanished, not in a puff of smoke, not in a magic sparkle. He was just gone from where he stood. Then he appeared above the boss creature in midair, like he had swapped places with a shadow. He landed on its back. His hand slammed down. A black pressure hit the creature like a giant fist. It smashed into the ground, face first, sending mud and water outward. The road shook. People screamed again, then fell silent as they realized the creature had stopped moving. Jin-Woo stood up on the creature's back, balanced and steady, like he was standing on flat ground. Edward stopped short beside Carlisle, eyes locked on Jin-Woo. Carlisle stared too, his calm mask slipping. Jin-Woo lifted his hand. His shadow soldiers closed in around the boss creature. They pinned it down. The boss tried to fight. It was strong. It twisted, snapping shadow limbs, crushing them. But every time it broke one, another replaced it. Bella realized the worst part. The shadows did not bleed. They did not panic. They did not tire. The boss creature finally did what smart monsters did. It tried to run. It slammed through the shadows and sprinted toward the forest, toward darkness, toward cover. And Jin-Woo let it go. For 2 seconds. Bella frowned, confused. Then she saw why. The moment the boss hit the trees, shadows rose ahead of it. Not from Jin-Woo's feet, from the forest itself. Like the woods had been filled with soldiers the whole time. A net closed around the creature. Black arms, black blades, black bodies. The boss skidded to a stop, trapped. Jin-Woo walked toward it without rushing. Rain slid down his hair and face. He didn't wipe it away. He raised his dagger. The boss snarled. Then, for the first time, it spoke. Not words Bella understood, but a sound shaped like language. Jin-Woo paused. His eyes flicked away for that half second again. Bella almost laughed from pure stress, even now. Jin-Woo looked back at the boss, voice calm. "You're looking for me." The boss creature's eyes narrowed. It moved its jaw like it wanted to answer. Jin-Woo didn't let it. He struck once, a clean cut. The boss's head separated from its body. The body fell still. The remaining monsters, as if linked to it, hesitated. Then Jin-Woo's shadow soldiers swept through them with quick, tight movements. In less than a minute, the road was quiet. Only rain and heavy breathing remained. Bella watched the gate. It still pulsed. Then it started to shrink, like the world was stitching itself back together, but it didn't close cleanly. As it vanished, it left behind something on the ground, a dark mark, not soot, not burn, a black stain shaped like a circle, pressed into the earth like a stamp. Jin-Woo stared at it, eyes hard. Edward stepped closer, stopping a safe distance away. "Is it over?" Edward asked. Jin-Woo didn't answer right away. His gaze flicked away again. Bella could almost picture it now, that invisible screen. Then Jin-Woo said, "Lo, this one closed." Carlyle moved up beside Edward, careful. "But?" Jin-Woo pointed at the black mark. "That shouldn't stay." Alice swallowed. "What does it mean?" Jin-Woo's voice stayed calm, but something cold slipped into it. "It means it can open again." Jacob's wolf came out of the trees, fur bristling, eyes locked on the shadows. Sam's wolf stood behind him, still and tense. Edward glanced at the wolves, then at Jin-Woo, then at the humans who were starting to ask questions. Sirens sounded in the distance. Charlie. Police. More lies they would need to tell. Bella's stomach twisted. Jin-Woo looked at the frightened people and the flashing lights coming closer. Then he looked at the forest. His voice was quiet. "Someone did this on purpose." Edward's eyes narrowed. "Who?" Jin-Woo stared at the black mark like it was a message written in ink. "I don't know yet," he said. Then, almost like a warning to himself, he added, "But they know I'm here now." And far away, across an ocean, in a place Bella had never seen, a man with long black hair smiled as if he had just heard a wonderful secret. Charlie Swan did not like mysteries. He liked facts. He liked reports. He liked a clear story that made sense. He stood on the shoulder of the highway with rain dripping off the brim of his hat, staring at the mess. Cars were parked at strange angles. A motorcycle lay on its side. A few people huddled under umbrellas, shaking and talking too fast. Someone kept saying the word "animal" over and over like it could explain everything. Charlie's eyes scanned the road, the ditch, the tree line. There were claw marks in the mud. There were long grooves in the wet gravel, like something heavy had slid across it. But there was no blood, no fur, no tracks that made sense. Forks did not have bears that did this. Charlie rubbed his forehead. He looked at the paramedic loading a man into an ambulance. "What did he say?" "Shock," the paramedic answered. "He keeps saying monsters. Then he says he must be dreaming." Charlie sighed. "Of course." He turned as a familiar shape stepped up beside him. "Bella." Charlie's heart jumped hard. "Bells, what are you doing here?" Bella's face was pale. Her hair was wet. Her eyes were wide, like she had not blinked in minutes. "I'm fine," she said too quickly. Charlie's voice rose. "You were at school." Bella swallowed. "Alice texted." I came." Charlie wanted to be mad. He wanted to be strict. But his fear was bigger than his anger. He lowered his voice. "Did you see anything?" Bella's eyes flicked to the trees. Charlie followed her gaze. He saw only darkness and rain. Bella's lips parted, then closed. Charlie watched her face. He knew that look now. The look that meant she was holding something back. He stepped closer. "Bella." Bella's voice came out quiet. "It wasn't an animal." Charlie's jaw tightened. "Then what was it?" Bella hesitated. Behind Charlie, one of the state troopers called out, "Chief, we found more marks." Charlie turned, relieved for an excuse to stop this talk. He walked to the spot. On the ground, near the ditch, the mud was darker. Not just wet, Dark like ink had soaked into it. A circle. Charlie crouched and touched it with a gloved hand. It felt wrong. Not sticky. Not oily. Just cold, in a way mud should not be. He stood back up fast. Probably fuel, the trooper said, but his voice sounded unsure. Charlie nodded like he agreed. He didn't. His eyes drifted to the far end of the stopped cars, where Carlisle Cullen stood in a clean coat that did not fit the scene. Carlisle spoke calmly to his scared mother, helping her settle her child. He looked like a doctor, because he was one. But something about him seemed too steady for a crash site. And then Charlie saw Edward. Edward was near Bella, close enough to block her if anything moved. Edward's face was too calm. Charlie didn't like that either. Charlie's chest tightened. He had a sudden picture in his mind of the black mark under his hand, and Bella's pale face, and the way Forks kept collecting secrets like puddles collected rain. Charlie stood up and said the only thing he could say. "All right," he told the trooper. "We call it an animal incident. Maybe a wreck caused by panic. We keep it simple." The trooper hesitated. "Chief, those marks." Charlie cut him off. "Simple." He walked back to Bella. "Get in the car," he told her, firm. Bella looked like she wanted to argue. Charlie's voice softened. "Please." Bella nodded and moved toward his cruiser. Edward took one step as if he was coming too. Charlie's eyes narrowed. "Not you." Edward stopped. Charlie pointed at him. "Go home, kid." Edward didn't answer. He only looked at Bella with that same intense focus Charlie could never understand. Bella got into the cruiser. Charlie shut the door, then leaned down to the window, voice low. "Bella," he said, "if something happened, you tell me." Bella stared straight ahead. "Nothing happened." Charlie held her gaze. "Bella." Bella's hands clenched in her lap. Then she whispered, so soft, Charlie barely heard it over the rain. "If I tell you, you won't believe me." Charlie swallowed. He wanted to say, "Try me." But the word stuck, because a part of him already knew she was right. Edward did not breathe. He didn't need to. But he still felt pressure in his chest as he watched Charlie drive away with Bella. He hated it. He hated leaving her out of his sight, even for 5 minutes. He also hated himself because the truth was worse. Bella was not the only one in danger now. Forks was. Edward turned away from the highway and moved into the trees. He ran fast, silent, with Jasper keeping pace beside him. They reached a deeper part of the forest where the Cullens had chosen to regroup. Carlisle stood near a fallen log. Alice paced. Emmett leaned against a trunk, restless. Rosalie stared into the dark like she wanted to punch it. And in the center stood Jin-Woo. He looked untouched by the fight. His clothes were damp from rain, but his face was calm, like the battle had been work, not emotion. The shadows around him were quieter now, still present but less visible. Edward could still feel them. Not with smell, not with sound, with something else. A warning. Carlisle spoke first. "Everyone got out, no one died," Emmett snorted. "Because he showed up with an army." Jin-Woo didn't react. Edward stepped closer. "That mark on the ground, what is it?" Jin-Woo's eyes flicked away for that half-second again. Edward hated that habit more every time. Then Jin-Woo said, "A trace, a leftover." "A leftover of what?" Rosalie snapped. Jin-Woo looked at her. "A door." Alice's voice came out tight. "Can it open again?" Jin-Woo nodded once. "Yes." Edward felt his anger flare. "Then we need to destroy it." Jin-Woo's gaze slid to Edward, calm and sharp. "If it was that easy, my world wouldn't exist the way it does." Carlisle lifted a hand. "Let's think. If this is like what you said, gates and monsters, then what triggers it?" Jin-Woo answered like he'd said it 100 times. Mana, pressure, sometimes a mistake. Sometimes someone wants it. Edward's eyes narrowed. Someone wants it. Jin-Woo's voice stayed even. Yes. Jasper's jaw tightened. So we're being hunted. Jin-Woo looked at him. Maybe. Or maybe I am. Emmett let out a short laugh with no humor. Great. So we get to be the background characters in your problem. Jin-Woo's eyes flicked away again. Then he said, You can leave. The forest went still. Emmett pushed off the tree, stepping forward. Excuse me? Jin-Woo met Emmett's stare. You can leave this. It isn't yours. Emmett's face hardened. People almost died on our road. Jin-Woo's voice stayed flat. And they won't, if I close the gates. Rosalie's eyes flashed. You're not the only one who can protect people. Jin-Woo looked at her, like he was measuring truth, not pride. In a fight like that, you are. Rosalie bristled. Carlyle stepped in gently. He's not insulting you, Rosalie. Edward's fists tightened. He hated that Jin-Woo was right. He hated it more that Jin-Woo said it without cruelty. Like it was only math. Alice stopped pacing. She looked at Jin-Woo, eyes shining with stress. I can't see you in my visions. That means I can't plan around you. That means I can't protect my family. Jin-Woo watched her. For a moment, his face softened, in that same tiny way it had softened when he looked at Bella. You rely on the future, he said. Alice swallowed. It's how I keep people alive. Jin-Woo nodded once. In my world, the future lies. Edward stared at him. Stop talking like we're in a war movie. Jin-Woo turned to him. We are. That hit Edward like a punch, because Edward had felt it at the highway. The monsters weren't just strong. They were organized. They moved like something had shaped them. Edward looked at Carlyle. We can't hide this. Carlyle's face was calm, but his eyes were serious. We have hidden worse. Edward's voice rose. Not this. Emmett muttered. The cops are already calling it a bear incident. Jasper's mouth tightened. And that lie will crack the moment another gate opens. Jin-Woo's gaze went to the north, toward town. My shadows will warn me, he said. I can be there. Rosalie snapped. And what if you're not? What if you're somewhere else reading your invisible list? Jin-Woo's eyes flicked away again like he couldn't help it. Then he looked back at her. I won't be, he said. Edward heard something in that. Not a promise like a human promise. A vow. Carlyle asked quietly, Jin-Woo, are you alone? Jin-Woo didn't answer right away. He looked down for a moment, like he was choosing a safe truth. Then he said, Not anymore. The shadows around them seemed to breathe. Edward felt a chill. Carlyle's voice stayed gentle. But do you have anyone here? Anyone you trust? Jin-Woo looked up. No. Edward's anger softened into something else. Not pity. Understanding. Edward had lived a long time. He knew what it was like to be trapped in a life you didn't choose. Jin-Woo didn't look trapped. He looked built for it. That was worse. Alice whispered, They're coming. Everyone turned to her. Alice's eyes were focused, like she was trying to force a vision to hold still. I keep seeing the same place. Stone walls, red robes, a smile. Carlyle's face tightened. Volterra. Edward's stomach dropped. Jasper's voice went low. The Volturi. Emmett's expression went flat. Well, that's just perfect. Jin-Woo looked from face to face. Volturi, he repeated, as if filing it away. Carlyle nodded once. They enforce vampire law. Jin-Woo asked. Simple. They kill. Carlyle hesitated. Edward answered for him. Yes. Jin-Woo's gaze went still. Then they will come to check what I am. Alice nodded fast. And if they can't control you, they'll try to remove you. Edward's jaw clenched. They won't touch him. Rosalie shot him a look. You're defending him now? Edward didn't look away. I'm defending Bella. Jin-Woo's eyes flicked to Edward, then away again. Then he said, They might not come for me first. Edward's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? Jin-Woo's voice stayed calm. If they want control, they attack the weak points. Silence. Edward's thought slammed into place. Bella. The idea of Volturi hands on Bella turned Edward's calm into something sharp and dangerous. Carlyle spoke softly. We will keep Bella safe. Edward's voice was hard. We don't wait for them. Jin-Woo's eyes stayed steady. We don't know their move yet. Edward snapped. I do. They always move the same. They come with smiles and rules and threats. Jin-Woo watched him like he was learning Edward's fear. Then Jin-Woo said, quiet and clear, Then we prepare. That night, Bella sat on her bed, staring at the rain on her window. Her room felt smaller than it used to, not because the walls had moved, because the world had changed. Charlie had checked on her twice, acting normal in that forced way he used when he was scared. Then he had gone to bed, but Bella knew he wasn't asleep. She could hear his footsteps on the hallway floor now and then. Bella's phone buzzed. A message from Edward. I'm outside. Bella's heart jumped. She moved to the window and saw him standing under the trees, still as a statue. She opened the window. Cold air and rain smell rushed in. Edward's voice came up soft. Bella, Bella whispered. What happened after Charlie left? Edward climbed up and into her room like it was nothing. He sat on the floor by her bed, close enough that she felt safer just seeing him. His face was tense. They're coming. Bella's stomach tightened. Who? Edward hesitated, then said the name like it tasted bad. The Volturi. Bella's breath caught. She had met them once. She had felt the weight of that room, the way it was full of smiles that were not friendly. They'll know, she asked. Edward nodded. They already do. Bella hugged her knees. Because of the highway. Edward's jaw tightened. Because of him. Bella's voice dropped. Jin-Woo. Edward nodded again. Bella tried to picture him. Calm. Quiet. That half-second pause like he was reading something. He didn't act like the vampires. He didn't act like the wolves. He acted like he had seen worse things than any of them. Bella swallowed. Is he dangerous? Edward stared at the floor for a moment, like the answer hurt. He could be, Edward said. Not because he wants to hurt people, because he could end us without effort if he decided we were in his way. Bella felt a shiver run through her. But he saved people. Edward looked at her. Yes. Bella held Edward's gaze. Then maybe he's not the problem. Edward's eyes narrowed, not angry, more confused. What? Bella spoke slowly, careful. The gate opened near people. Monsters came out. That would have killed everyone if he wasn't there. Edward's face tightened. He's not a hero because he stopped at once. Bella's voice stayed calm. Neither are we. Edward flinched, like she had slapped him. Bella reached out and took his hand. It was cold, always cold. It still comforted her. I'm saying, she continued, maybe the gates are the real threat. Edward looked away, jaw tight. Bella squeezed his hand. And the Volturi might be the other threat. Edward's eyes snapped back to her. They will use you. Bella's blood ran cold. They tried before. Edward's voice was rough, and now they'll have an excuse. Bella whispered. Then we don't give them one. Edward stared at her like he wanted to argue. Then he exhaled, sharp. You shouldn't be involved, he said. Bella's mouth tightened. I already am. Edward didn't deny it. He couldn't. Outside, thunder rumbled low. Bella looked at Edward. Is Jin-Woo staying with the Cullens? Edward nodded. For now. Bella hesitated. Does he talk? Edward let out a short breath. Not much. Bella thought about that half-second pause. He keeps looking at that invisible thing? Bella asked. Edward's lips tightened. Yes. Bella almost smiled, but stress killed it. So even a guy with an army of shadows has homework. Edward stared at her. Bella shrugged, trying to lighten the air. What? It's weird. Edward's expression softened just a little. Bella's voice went serious again. If the Volturi come, will he help? Edward hesitated. I don't know. Bella swallowed. Then we have to give him a reason. Edward's eyes narrowed. Bella, we don't bargain with people like that. Bella said. He's not like the Volturi. Edward went still. Bella pressed. He cares about humans. He said so. Edward's gaze drifted toward the window, toward the forest. He didn't answer. But Bella could see it in his face. He was thinking the same thing. If Jin-Woo chose Forks, the Volturi would not be able to take what they wanted. If Jin-Woo didn't, then Bella might become the lever again. Edward's hand tightened around hers. I won't let them touch you, Bella whispered. Promise. Edward's voice was hard and soft at once. Always. Across an ocean, in the old stone city of Volterra, Aro sat in a quiet room, lit by candles. He held a hand out. A vampire in a cloak stepped forward and placed a small object into Aro's palm. It was a wet leaf, pressed flat. Aro smiled, eyes bright. From Forks, he whispered. The vampire nodded. Yes. Master. Aro raised the leaf to his face, as if he could smell the story on it. He turned to Caius, who stood nearby like a statue carved from anger. The Cullens have found something, Aro said. Caius's eyes narrowed. Another problem? Aro's smile grew. Not a problem. He looked toward Jane and Alec, standing side by side. Jane's face was calm and cruel. Alec's face was blank. A gift, Aro said softly. Caius scoffed. If it is a gift, it will be dangerous. Aro's eyes gleamed. That is why it is valuable. He tapped the leaf once. An event on a highway. Many humans. Monsters described as animals. A black mark that should not exist. Caius leaned forward, irritation sharp. Monsters? Aro spread his hands. We have always believed we understand the hidden world. He leaned in, voice low like a secret shared with friends. But perhaps there are hidden worlds beneath hidden worlds. Jane's lips curled slightly. Do you want me to hurt it? Aro's smile stayed polite. Not yet, dear Jane. He looked at Alec. Can you make it blind? Alec's eyes did not change. If it has senses. Aro hummed. Yes, that is the question. He stood, robe falling around him like dark water. We will send scouts. Caius's voice was sharp. And if it threatens secrecy? Aro smiled again. Then we do what we always do. He turned his head, as if he could see all the way to Forks, through stone and ocean. But first, Aro whispered, we learn what it is. Dmitri did not get lost. That was his thing. Aro sent him because Dmitri could find a person in a crowd, find a scent in rain, find a target across a continent. Dmitri traveled with Felix, Jane, and Alec. 4 shadows and cloaks moving through the world like it belonged to them. Forks smelled wet and small. Dmitri stood at the edge of the forest near the Cullen land and closed his eyes for a moment. He reached out with his gift. It was like a string inside his mind, a pull. He found Carlyle easily. Carlyle's presence was clear, familiar. He found Edward, too. Edward's mind was loud even from far away. Then Dmitri searched for the new thing, the anomaly. He reached, and his fingers found nothing. Not emptiness, not a blank. It felt like the string snapped the moment it touched the air around the target. Dimitri's eyes opened. Felix glanced at him. "Well?" Dimitri's voice came out low. "That's new." Jane smiled as if she had just heard a joke. "Good." Alec looked toward the trees. "It's near." Dimitri nodded slowly. "Yes." He stepped forward, cautious for the first time in a long time, and he felt it. Not a scent, not a sound, a pressure, like the forest itself had weight. Jane's smile widened. "There," Felix cracked his neck. "Finally." They moved, not rushing, not hunting like animals, walking like judges. And above them, hidden between branches, something watched. Not a vampire, not a wolf. A shadow, thin as smoke, clinging to the underside of a limb like it belonged there. Its empty eyes stared. Then it melted into the bark and slid away. Silent. Carlyle felt them before they reached the house. Edward heard their thoughts the moment they crossed into range. Alice nearly fell when her vision snapped into focus for 1 second, showing a flash of red eyes and cloaks. Jin-Woo was in the living room, standing still. When Edward walked in, Jin-Woo turned his head. "They're close," Jin-Woo said. Edward's voice was tight. "The Volturi." Jin-Woo's eyes flicked away again. Then he nodded. "Yes." Emmett muttered, "I hate that you say yes like you're confirming a weather report." Jin-Woo ignored him. Carlyle took a slow breath. "We meet them outside. Calm, respectful." Rosalie's eyes narrowed. "We should send them away." Jasper's voice was quiet. "We can't." Edward's jaw clenched. "If they ask for Bella," Carlyle cut in fast. "They won't see Bella." Edward's eyes flashed. "They'll try." Jin-Woo looked at Edward. "Is she your weak point?" Edward's voice came out like a growl. "Don't call her that." Jin-Woo's face didn't change. "It's not an insult. It's a fact." Edward took 1 step closer. Jasper moved, blocking him. "Edward." Edward stopped. Barely. Carlyle turned to Jin-Woo. "Please, let us speak first." Jin-Woo nodded once, but his shadows shifted under the floor like a calm sea hiding a storm. The front door opened. The Cullens stepped out into the rain. Jin-Woo followed. The forest felt like it was holding its breath. 4 cloaked figures emerged from the trees and walked into the clearing. Jane's eyes were bright and cruel. Alec's face was blank. Felix looked like he wanted a fight. Dimitri's gaze scanned, searching for a thread he couldn't grab. Carlyle stood with hands open, polite. "Welcome." Jane smiled. "Hello, Carlyle." Edward stood 1 step behind Carlyle, tense but controlled. Jin-Woo stood a few steps to the side, calm, hands at his sides. Dimitri's eyes landed on him and narrowed, like he felt the problem even if he couldn't track it. Jane's gaze slid to Jin-Woo. "So that's it." Carlyle's voice stayed steady. "His name is Jin-Woo. He's a visitor." Jane tilted her head, mock sweet. "A visitor who caused a lot of noise." Edward's voice was cold. "He prevented deaths." Jane's smile did not change. "We heard there were creatures." Jin-Woo spoke calmly. "Monsters." Felix's lip curled. "We don't have monsters." Jin-Woo looked at him. "You do now." Alec's eyes moved, assessing. "You smell human." Jin-Woo didn't react. "I am." Jane laughed softly. "That's funny." Carlyle took a careful step forward. "We are handling it." Jane's eyes flicked to Carlyle, then back to Jin-Woo. "We don't like secrets." Edward's jaw tightened. "Then you should stop living off them." Jane's smile sharpened. Carlyle's tone stayed calm. "Jane, please." Jane's gaze stayed locked on Jin-Woo. "Show me." Carlyle stiffened. "No." Jane ignored him. Her eyes brightened. Her voice became sweet. Pain. Edward moved at once, but nothing happened to him. Nothing happened to Carlyle. Jane's power was aimed at Jin-Woo. Bella wasn't there, but if she had been, she would have felt the air tighten. Jin-Woo's body went still. For half a second, his face tightened, like a muscle had pulled. Edward's eyes widened. It worked. Then Jin-Woo exhaled once. Slow. His gaze flicked away like he was checking his invisible screen, and his face smoothed back into calm. Jane's smile faltered. She pushed harder. Jin-Woo's fingers twitched. The ground beneath Jane's feet darkened. A shadow hand rose, not touching her, but hovering close enough to show a warning. Alec's eyes narrowed. Felix stepped forward, ready to attack. Carlyle's voice was sharp now. "Stop!" Jane's eyes widened. Angry, because she did not like being resisted. Jin-Woo looked at her, voice calm. "That's a strong gift," Jane sneered. "And you're still standing?" Jin-Woo nodded once. "Yes." Dimitri's eyes narrowed further. He couldn't track him, but he could read the pattern now. This wasn't a normal vampire gift situation. This was something else. Alec spoke, voice empty. "Let me." Jane's eyes flicked to Alec, annoyed. "Fine." Alec raised his hand slightly. The air seemed to change. Edward felt it as a dull pressure, like a curtain falling. Alec's gift didn't hurt. It removed. It made the world go quiet. Alec aimed it at Jin-Woo. For an instant, Jin-Woo's eyes blinked. Edward saw it. The smallest sign of surprise. Then Jin-Woo's head turned slightly, like he could still sense the shape of the world, even if the senses were cut. Jin-Woo spoke, calm. "You're trying to blind me." Alec's blank face didn't change. Jin-Woo's shadows moved. Not a rush, not a charge. They simply appeared around Jin-Woo, forming a circle like guards. If Alec's gift was cutting off sight and sound, Jin-Woo's shadows were acting like extra senses. Edward realized something with a cold twist. Jin-Woo wasn't alone, even when he was alone. He had a whole system, a whole network. Jane's voice turned sharp. "Enough. Aro will be disappointed if we break the toy." Felix grunted, unhappy, but he stopped. Dimitri spoke carefully, eyes locked on Jin-Woo. "Our master invites you." Jin-Woo's gaze flicked away. Then he asked, simple, "Why?" Dimitri's mouth tightened. "Because you are unusual." Jane smiled again, back to sweet cruelty. "And because if you are a threat to secrecy, you must be dealt with." Carlyle's voice was firm. "He's not a threat." Jane's eyes slid to Carlyle. "You always say that." Edward's voice was sharp. "He saved lives." Jane leaned forward slightly, like she was sharing a fun fact. "Secrecy comes first." Jin-Woo stared at her. "In my world, survival comes first." Jane's smile thinned. "Then your world is messy." Jin-Woo didn't deny it. "Yes." Dimitri extended a hand, polite. "You will come with us, or we will return with our master's full attention." Edward's body went rigid. Carlyle's jaw tightened. Alice's eyes darted, seeing broken pieces of the future. Jin-Woo looked from face to face, calm as rain. Then he said, "I'm not going anywhere." Jane's eyes brightened, excited. "Oh?" Jin-Woo's voice stayed flat. "Not as a prisoner." Dimitri's expression tightened. "You don't understand." Jin-Woo's gaze flicked away again, then back. "I understand," he said. "You want control." Jane's smile returned. "Smart." Jin-Woo's eyes slid to Edward. "And you want to protect the human." Edward's voice came out like ice. "Don't say her like she's a thing." Jin-Woo didn't look away. "Then stop making her your shield." Edward's anger flared. Carlyle cut in, voice controlled but urgent. "Enough." Carlyle turned to Dimitri. "Tell Aro this. Forks is handling the situation. There will be no exposure. There will be no need for intervention." Jane laughed. "Carlisle, you don't get to decide what we need." Carlisle's voice stayed calm. "Tell him anyway." Dmitri hesitated. Then he nodded once. Jane's eyes stayed on Jin-Woo as if she wanted to peel him open with her gaze. Alex stood like a silent wall. Felix looked disappointed that no one had started punching. Dmitri stepped back. "We will deliver the message." Jane's smile sharpened again. "And we will deliver another." She looked at Edward. Then she looked at the house. Then she looked back at Carlisle. Sweet as poison. "We know where your weak points live." Edward's whole body locked. Carlisle's face went very still. Jin-Woo's shadows under the ground shifted, like something deep had just turned its head. Jane's smile stayed in place as she stepped backward into the trees. "We'll be watching," she said. Then the Volturi scouts vanished into the forest like the rain swallowed them. The clearing stayed silent for 3 heartbeats. Then Edward turned, voice rough. "They threatened Bella." Carlisle's voice was low. "Yes." Edward looked at Jin-Woo, anger and fear mixing. "And you just stood there." Jin-Woo looked back at him, calm. "I was watching their tools." Edward's eyes widened. "Their tools?" Jin-Woo nodded once. "Now I know what they can do." Edward's voice rose. "Bella is not a test." Jin-Woo's gaze flicked away for half a second. When it came back, it was colder. "She is leverage," Jin-Woo said. "If you pretend she isn't, you'll lose her." Edward froze, like the words had hit him in the chest. Carlisle stepped in, voice firm. "We don't panic. We plan." Alice's hands trembled. "I can't see a clean path. It keeps breaking." Jasper swallowed, fighting the emotions in the air. "They're going to make it personal." Jin-Woo looked toward the forest. "Good." Emmett blinked. "Good." Jin-Woo's voice stayed calm. "Personal means predictable." Edward stared at him, stunned. Because in Edward's mind, personal meant pain. In Jin-Woo's world, personal meant a target you could hit back. Jin-Woo stood in the Cullen garage later that night, alone. Carlisle had offered him space, a place to think, a place to exist without eyes on him every second. He didn't use it to rest. He used it to work. He looked at nothing. A blue window hovered in front of his eyes, invisible to everyone else. Quest updated. Anomaly detected. Mana low world. Gate. Residue. Unstable. His jaw tightened. A low mana world should not be able to hold gate residue like that. Something was feeding it. Something was anchoring it. He turned his head slightly. A shadow soldier rose from the concrete floor, silent and still, waiting like a trained dog. Jin-Woo spoke quietly. "Scout." The shadow soldier sank into the ground and vanished. He did not send it toward the town. He sent it toward the path the 4 cloaked vampires had taken. He needed to know where their power came from. He needed to know who stood above them. Jin-Woo's eyes flicked to another line in his status. Shadow storage, stable. Shadow exchange. Available. He could move if he needed to, but he didn't want to move blindly. That was how you walked into traps. He closed his eyes for 1 second. Then he opened them and spoke to the empty garage. "Come out," he said. The air behind him thickened. A taller shadow stepped forward from the darkness, armor clean, sword at his side. Igris. Jin-Woo didn't need to explain much. Igris understood his tone. Jin-Woo's voice stayed quiet. "If they touch the human, you move." Igris bowed once, slow and respectful. Jin-Woo stared at the concrete floor, thinking. He wasn't angry. Not yet. But his calm had a sharp edge now, because the Volturi had just shown him something he hated. A world of predators that used rules like knives. He didn't care about their rules. He cared about the people caught under them. 2 days passed. Forks didn't stop raining, but it did start to change. People whispered about the highway incident like it was a ghost story. The school principal made an announcement about wildlife safety. Charlie's face looked tighter every day. And at the edge of town, wolves started patrolling in larger groups. Jacob shifted less often now. He stayed in his human form more, but his eyes looked like he was always ready to run. He met Bella behind the school one afternoon, under the overhang where the rain couldn't hit them. "Are you okay?" Jacob asked. Bella nodded, but it wasn't true. Jacob's jaw tightened. "They're coming!" Bella's heart jumped. "The Volturi?" Jacob blinked. "What? No, I mean, something. The forest feels wrong." Bella swallowed. "It is wrong." Jacob leaned closer, voice low. "That guy, Jin-Woo, I don't trust him." Bella's voice came out sharp. "He saved people." Jacob's eyes flashed. "And what happens when he decides we're in the way?" Bella stared at him. "Then we hope he's the kind of person who doesn't do that." Jacob scoffed. "That's not a plan." Bella's voice dropped. "No, it's not." Jacob hesitated. His anger softened into worry. "Bella, Sam says you should stay away from the Cullens." Bella almost laughed. "Sam always says that." Jacob's face tightened. "This is different." Bella looked at the rain, thinking of shadows rising from mud like soldiers. "It is," Bella whispered. Jacob watched her. Frustrated. "Tell me the truth." "What is he?" Bella hesitated. She thought about telling him. Then she remembered Edward's face when Jane threatened weak points. Bella shook her head. "I can't." Jacob's voice was rough. "Bella," Bella cut him off, "just keep people away from the forest." Jacob's eyes narrowed. "That sounds like fear." Bella whispered, "It is." Jacob stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded once, slow. "Okay." He stepped back. "But if anything happens, I'm not waiting for vampires to fix it." Bella didn't answer, because she didn't think the vampires could fix it anymore. That night, the Shadow Scout returned. Jin-Woo was in the living room when it rose from the floor like a ripple. Edward was there too, sitting rigid on the couch like he was guarding a prison. Carlyle sat in a chair, calm, hands folded. Alice stood nearby, anxious. The shadow soldier didn't speak. It didn't need to. Jin-Woo closed his eyes for a second. Information flooded into him through the connection. He saw cloaks. He saw stone buildings. He saw an old city with narrow streets. He saw red eyes moving like secret police. He saw a tower. He saw a room full of candlelight. He saw a man with long black hair smiling as if he had been waiting. Jin-Woo opened his eyes. Carlyle's voice was gentle. "What did you learn?" Jin-Woo spoke calmly. "They're leaders in Europe." Edward's eyes narrowed. "Volterra." Jin-Woo nodded. "Yes." Alice's breath caught. "I keep seeing it." Edward's voice was tight. "We're not going there." Jin-Woo's gaze slid to him. "Why?" Edward's jaw clenched. "Because that's what they want." Jin-Woo's eyes flicked away again, then back. "They already want control," Jin-Woo said. "They already threatened your human." Edward went still. Jin-Woo continued, voice calm. "If we wait, they choose the place and time." Carlyle's face tightened slightly. "He has a point," Edward snapped. "No." Carlyle didn't flinch. "Edward." Edward's voice rose. "You want to walk into their home?" Jin-Woo's voice stayed even. "I want to find the source of the gate residue." Alice's eyes widened. "You think it's connected to them?" Jin-Woo shook his head once. "Not exactly." He looked at nothing for half a second. Then he said, "But they are connected to the secrecy, and secrecy hides things." Jasper's voice was quiet. And if another gate opens, they'll blame us. Rosalie's eyes flashed. They'll blame us anyway. Emmett muttered. This town was already cursed. Now it's cursed with extra steps. Jin-Woo didn't react. He only said, I'm going to Volterra. Edward's body went rigid. No. Jin-Woo looked at him. You can stop me if you want. Edward's eyes flashed with anger, but he didn't move, because he knew he couldn't. Carlyle stood, calm but firm. If you go, you won't go alone, Edward snapped. Carlyle! Carlyle held up a hand. Edward, we are a family. If danger is moving toward us, we face it together. Edward's eyes went to Alice. Alice swallowed. I can't see a clean outcome, she admitted. But I can see one thing. Carlyle waited. Alice whispered, if we don't go, Bella gets pulled into it. Edward's face went white with fury and fear. Jin-Woo watched Edward closely, not like an enemy, like a man watching someone else's weak spot. Then Jin-Woo said, calm. Decide quickly. Edward's voice was rough. Fine. He looked at Carlyle, then at Alice, then at Jasper. We go, Edward said, but Bella stays protected. Carlyle nodded. Yes. Edward's eyes locked on Jin-Woo. And you don't make her the bait. Jin-Woo's gaze flicked away for half a second. Then he answered, simple. I won't. Edward didn't relax. He didn't believe promises anymore. He believed plans. They didn't take Bella. That part was non-negotiable. Edward told Bella at her window the next night, voice low and urgent. We're leaving for a few days, he said. Bella's heart dropped. Where? Edward hesitated. Then he said it. Volterra. Bella's breath caught. Her mind raced with memory of red eyes, candlelight, and the sound of her own heartbeat in a room full of stone. No, Bella whispered. No. Please. Edward grabbed her hands. You're not going. Bella shook her head hard. Then don't go either. Edward's jaw clenched. We have to. Bella's eyes filled with tears she hated. Because of Jin-Woo. Edward's gaze sharpened. Because of the gates. Bella swallowed. And the Volturi. Edward nodded once. Bella's voice was shaking. They'll use you. They'll use me. They'll... Edward cut her off, voice fierce. I won't let them. Bella's hands tightened around his. You said that last time. Edward went still. Bella realized she had hit something raw. Edward's voice dropped. This time, we're not walking in blind. Bella whispered. You're trusting him. Edward's eyes flashed. No. He paused. Then he admitted it, like it hurt. But I'm willing to stand near him if it keeps you safe. Bella stared at him. Edward leaned in. Forehead against hers for a moment. Charlie thinks it was an animal. Jacob thinks it's a curse. The Volturi think they can own everything. He pulled back and looked her in the eyes. But Jin-Woo, he doesn't think like them, Bella whispered. How does he think? Edward's jaw tightened. Like a soldier. Bella's throat tightened. That scares me. Edward's voice was soft. Me too. Bella swallowed and forced herself to be strong. Then promise me one thing. Edward nodded. Anything. Bella said, if it turns bad, you don't try to be a hero alone. Edward's mouth tightened. Bella cut him off. Promise. Edward held her gaze, then nodded once. I promise. Bella whispered. And tell Jin-Woo. Tell him. I said thank you. Edward blinked, surprised. Why? Bella's voice was quiet. Because he saved people. And nobody here ever thanks the monsters that protect them. Edward stared at her, like the words hurt and healed him at the same time. He nodded once. Okay. Then he vanished into the rain. Bella shut the window and sat on her bed with her hands shaking. Outside, the forest felt like it was full of eyes. Jin-Woo did not fly to Europe. He did not need a plane ticket. He did not stand in airports. He used time. He used planning. He sent one shadow ahead. It was small, thin, hard to notice. It moved under floors and behind walls. It crossed the ocean hidden in cargo and darkness, patient and silent. When it reached Volterra, it waited. When Jin-Woo felt it settle into place, he finally used shadow exchange. One blink, one step, and the world changed. He stood in a narrow alley in an old stone city. The air smelled dry, not wet like Forks. It smelled like history and dust. He could hear human hearts nearby, many of them, too many. Volterra. He didn't smile. He didn't relax. He checked his status without thinking. Then he spoke quietly. Stay hidden. His shadows sank into the cracks between stones. He moved through the city like a man who had learned how to walk unseen, even when he wasn't trying. Above him, towers rose into the night like dark fingers. And somewhere inside one of those towers, a group of vampires waited, believing this city belonged to them. Edward hated Europe. He hated the smell of too many humans in tight streets. He hated how easy it would be to lose control if the wrong thing happened. And most of all, he hated that his enemy felt comfortable here. Carlyle moved through Volterra like he remembered every stone. He had been here before. He knew the rules of the place. He knew the smiles that hid teeth. Alice stayed close, eyes darting, trying to catch flashes of the future, and failing more often than not. Jasper's face was tight, fighting the emotions of the crowd. Emmett kept muttering jokes that were not funny, like he was trying to keep his own nerves from snapping. Rosalie looked like she wanted to burn the city down. They moved toward the old tower. Then Edward felt it. That pressure again, that quiet weight in the air. He stopped so fast Alice nearly bumped into him. Carlyle turned. "Edward!" Edward's eyes scanned the alley ahead. He whispered, "He's here." Jasper's eyes narrowed. "Jin-Woo." Edward nodded once. Alice swallowed. "I didn't see him arrive." Edward's jaw tightened. "Of course you didn't." They moved forward, careful. Then Jin-Woo stepped out of a shadow between two buildings, like he had been waiting for them. He looked the same. Calm. Clean. Dark eyes. Emmett threw his hands up. "Okay, that's just unfair." Jin-Woo looked at Emmett. "You're loud." Emmett blinked. "That's my brand." Carlyle stepped forward, voice gentle. "You came ahead." Jin-Woo nodded once. "I needed a look." Edward's eyes narrowed. "And?" Jin-Woo's gaze flicked away for half a second. Then he said, "They have an underground structure." Carlyle's face tightened. "Yes." Jin-Woo continued, calm. "And there is gate residue here too." Edward's stomach dropped. Alice's eyes widened. "What?" Jin-Woo looked at her. "It's faint. But it's here." Rosalie's voice went sharp. "So it's connected?" Jin-Woo shook his head slightly. "Not necessarily. But this place is old. It has pressure." Edward's voice was cold. "And it has Volturi." Jin-Woo's eyes went to the tower. "Yes." Carlyle's voice dropped. "We don't start a war in Volterra." Jin-Woo looked at him. "Then don't." Edward stared at Jin-Woo. "You say that like it's easy." Jin-Woo's face didn't change. "It is, if they let it be." Edward's jaw tightened. "And if they don't?" Jin-Woo's gaze flicked away again. When it returned, it was simple and deadly calm. "Then they learn," he said. The first sign of the new gate came from below. Not a roar. A deep thump, like stone had been hit from the inside. In the tower, Aro paused mid-sentence. He smiled wider. "Ah," he said softly. There it is. Caius scowled. What is it now? Arrow lifted a finger like a teacher. Not now, Caius. Listen! Another thump. This time, a faint tremor ran through the floor. Jane's eyes brightened. Something is coming. Alec tilted his head slightly. Not vampire. Dimitri stepped forward. I still can't track the anomaly. Aro's smile turned delighted. That makes it even better. Caius's voice was sharp. If this threatens secrecy, Aro cut him off, gentle but firm. Secrecy will survive. He clasped his hands. And we may gain a new asset. Another thump. Stone dust fell from the ceiling. Aro's eyes gleamed. Open the halls, he commanded. Bring the guard. He looked at Jane. Be ready. He looked at Alec. Be ready. He looked at Dimitri. Find him. Dimitri's jaw tightened. I can't. Aro smiled. Then follow what follows him. Dimitri went still. Because that made sense. If you couldn't track the man, you tracked the consequences. Under the tower, deep in stone halls lit by torches, the air split. A black gate opened in a space that should not have held it. The stone around it frosted with cold. The torches flickered. Vampires in cloaks lined the corridor, forming a wall. Felix stood at the front, cracking his neck like he'd been born for violence. Jane stood beside him, smiling. Alec stood quiet. Dimitri's eyes moved like a hunter. Aro and Caius watched from behind, calm and proud. Then the gate pulsed, and something stepped out. It was not like the creatures on the highway. This thing moved slower. It stood upright. It had armor-like skin and long arms. Its eyes were sharp, not wild. It looked around once, like it understood where it was. Then it smiled. Not friendly. More like it recognized a game. Felix lunged, fast as a bullet. He hit the creature in the chest with a punch that would smash stone. The creature slid back one step. One. Then it grabbed Felix's arm and twisted. Felix's face snapped from confidence to surprise. The creature flung him down the corridor like he weighed nothing. Felix slammed into the wall and cracked stone. Jane laughed, thrilled. Good. She aimed her gift. Pain. The creature stiffened. Then it snarled, confused. Not because it hurt, because it didn't understand what was attacking it. Alec lifted his hand. The corridor's air dulled. The creature blinked fast, eyes widening. Its smile vanished. It took one step back toward the gate. Dimitri's eyes sharpened. It wants to retreat. Caius snarled. Don't let it. Aro smiled softly. Let it try. It will show us what it fears. The creature moved again, faster now, snapping its head like it was searching for a target. And then, without warning, it looked straight toward the ceiling, like it could feel someone above. Aro's smile froze for half a second. Jane's eyes narrowed. Alec's head tilted. Dimitri whispered, It senses him. The creature raised a hand and pointed at the darkness, like accusing it. Then it spoke, not in a human language, but in a tone that made even vampires feel the meaning. Found. Edward felt the gate open like a bad smell in his mind. Not a thought. A pull. He stopped in the street, eyes snapping toward the tower. Carlyle's face tightened. It started. Alice's breath caught. I can see flickers. Just flickers. Jin-Woo's head turned. He listened like he could hear the gate breathing from miles away. He said, Calm. It opened. Edward stared at him. You felt that? Jin-Woo nodded once. Yes. Edward's jaw clenched. Then we move. Carlyle's voice was tight. Careful. Jin-Woo didn't wait. He used shadow exchange. Edward didn't even see him run. One blink, and Jin-Woo was gone. Emmett threw his hands up again. I hate that, Edward snarled. Move! They sprinted toward the tower. Jin-Woo arrived in the underground hall like a blade dropping into place. He stepped out of a shadow behind a pillar. His eyes swept the scene in one fast scan. A black gate, Volturi guard lines, Aro smiling like a man watching a show, Jane and Alec standing ready, Felix recovering from the wall, and the creature. It stared at Jin-Woo the moment he appeared, like it had been waiting for him more than anything else. Jin-Woo's eyes narrowed. This wasn't a random boss. This was a scout. A test. The creature moved first. It lunged at Jin-Woo with a sharp, clean strike aimed for the throat. Jin-Woo shifted one step. The strike missed by inches. Jin-Woo's dagger appeared in his hand. He cut once. The blade bit into the creature's arm and drew a dark line. The creature hissed and jumped back. Aro's eyes widened slightly. Jane's smile grew. Kaya snarled, "Kill it!" Aro lifted a hand, still smiling. Wait. He watched Jin-Woo like he was watching a rare animal. Jin-Woo didn't look at Aro. He didn't look at Caius. He looked only at the creature, because the creature was watching him with recognition. Jin-Woo spoke, voice low. "Who sent you?" The creature didn't answer with words. It smiled again. Then it rushed past Jin-Woo, not toward the gate, toward the vampires. It slammed into Felix, sending him flying again. It swiped at Jane. Jane dodged, but the creature's speed surprised her. Alec raised his hand, trying to cut its senses. The creature staggered, blinking hard. Then it did something smart. It grabbed a vampire guard by the cloak and hurled him into another, using bodies like obstacles. Chaos rippled through the line. Not because the Volturi were weak, because they weren't used to fighting something that didn't fear them. Jin-Woo moved. His shadows rose from the stone floor, spreading fast. They formed a barrier between the creature and the humans farther back in the halls. Aro's eyes gleamed. "Marvelous!" Caius snapped. "Stop smiling!" Aro didn't stop. Jane's voice turned sharp. "Pain!" Her gift hit the creature again. It stiffened, then snarled, then pushed through it like it was walking through thick mud. Jane's smile cracked. Alec pushed his gift harder. The creature stumbled, losing balance for half a second. Jin-Woo used that half second. He appeared behind it, moving like he had stepped through the world's blind spot. He grabbed the creature's shoulder and drove it down. Stone cracked under the impact. The creature twisted, strong, but Jin-Woo's shadows pinned its limbs. The creature fought, breaking one shadow arm, then another. They regenerated instantly. It snarled in frustration. Jin-Woo's voice stayed calm. "You're not here to win." The creature's eyes locked on his. It stopped struggling for one beat. Then it did something that made Jin-Woo's stomach tighten. It smiled again, and the gate behind it pulsed. Not closing. Responding. Like it had heard a signal. Jin-Woo's eyes narrowed. "So that's it." Aro leaned forward, excitement bright in his face. "My dear, what is it?" Jin-Woo didn't answer him. He raised his dagger. The creature watched him with calm, like it had already gotten what it wanted. Jin-Woo struck. Not a messy blow. A clean cut that ended the creature's movement. The creature went still. The gate trembled. Then it began to shrink. Aro's smile faltered, disappointed. "Oh." Jin-Woo stared at the gate as it closed. It didn't leave a mark as dark as the one in Forks, but it left something. A faint stain, a pressure in the stone. Jin-Woo felt it like a bruise in the world, and he knew the truth. Someone could open these doors without this world's permission. Someone could plant them. Aro stepped forward, hands open, voice gentle. "Welcome to Volterra." Jin-Woo turned his head slowly. Aro's smile was warm, in a way that was fake and perfect. "My name is Aro," Aro said. "I've been longing to meet you." Jin-Woo's gaze flicked away for half a second. Then he looked back at Aro. He didn't bow. He didn't show fear. He said, "Calm. You sent them to test me." Aro's smile widened. "Of course." Jin-Woo's eyes narrowed. "And you threatened a human to get leverage." Aro's eyebrows lifted as if impressed. "You learned quickly." Jin-Woo's voice went colder. "Don't." Aro blinked once, still smiling. "Don't what, my dear?" Jin-Woo's shadows rose slightly around his feet, not attacking, but warning. "Don't touch her," Jin-Woo said. Jane laughed softly. "He thinks he can command us." Alex stared, expressionless, but his eyes were alert. Caius snarled, "We can kill any human we want." Jin-Woo's gaze slid to Caius. "Try." The hall went still. Even Felix, bruised and angry, paused. Aro lifted a hand, soothing. No need for conflict. He looked at Jin-Woo like a collector looking at a priceless object. "You are extraordinary." Jin-Woo didn't move. "Say what you want." Aro's smile sharpened, polite and hungry at the same time. "Join us." Jin-Woo stared. "No." Aro blinked, surprised by how fast it came. Jane's smile vanished. "Excuse me." Aro held up a hand to Jane, calm. So firm. He took one slow step closer to Jin-Woo, careful not to cross an invisible line. "You could have stability here," Aro said softly. "Resources, knowledge, a place where your power would never be questioned." Jin-Woo's voice was flat. "You mean controlled?" Aro's smile didn't drop. "Guided." Jin-Woo's eyes flicked away again. Then he said, calm and sharp, "You're not offering help. You're offering ownership." Aro laughed lightly, like it was charming. What a harsh word. Jin-Woo's voice didn't change. Accurate. Caius stepped forward, furious. "We do not ask twice." Jin-Woo's shadows shifted. The air thickened. For one moment, the Volturi guard line tensed, as if their bodies remembered fear, even if they didn't admit it. Aro's smile softened. "Caius, please." Caius snarled and stopped. Aro looked back to Jin-Woo, voice gentle again. "Then perhaps we negotiate." Jin-Woo's eyes narrowed. "There's nothing to negotiate." Aro's smile stayed warm. "There is always something." Jin-Woo's voice dropped. "If you touch Forks, I will end you." Jane's eyes widened, then brightened. "Oh, I like him." Alex's gaze sharpened, studying. Dimitri stared like he was trying to understand how something could stand in this hall and speak that way. Aro didn't look offended. He looked thrilled. "Such confidence," Aro whispered. Jin-Woo stared at him. "Such arrogance." Aro pressed a hand to his chest, amused. "Perhaps," he tilted his head. "But tell me, Jin-Woo, why protect that little town?" Jin-Woo's voice was simple. "Because people live there." Aro's smile softened, almost sincere. "How noble." Jin-Woo's gaze flicked away again, then returned. "I'm not noble," Jin-Woo said. "I'm used to this." Aro's eyes gleamed. "Used to being a god among monsters?" Jin-Woo didn't answer, because he didn't think of himself as a god. He thought of himself as the last line when everyone else failed. Aro stepped back, still smiling. "Very well." He spread his hands. "We will not touch your forks, for now." Edward arrived then, bursting into the hall with Carlyle and the others. Edward's eyes locked on Aro at once. Hate and fear in equal measure. Then Edward's gaze snapped to Jin-Woo. Jin-Woo stood calm in the center of the hall like he belonged there. Alice's breath caught. Carlyle's face was tight, but controlled. "Aro." Aro smiled wider, delighted. Carlyle and friends. Perfect timing. Caius snarled. "They brought the human?" Edward's voice cut like a knife. "She's not here." Aro's smile stayed bright. "Of course not." His eyes slid to Jin-Woo again. "You are protective. I respect that." Jin-Woo didn't react. Arrow looked at Carlyle. It seems your household has gained a very significant guest. Carlyle's voice was steady. He is not a guest to be claimed. Arrow laughed softly. Claimed? No, no. His eyes said the opposite. Jin-Woo spoke, calm. The gate opened under your home. Arrow's smile didn't change. Yes. Jin-Woo's eyes narrowed. You didn't know. Arrow's eyebrows lifted. Did I not? Jin-Woo watched him for a long moment, trying to read the truth behind the charm. Then Jin-Woo spoke, low. Someone is using this world like a hallway. Arrow's smile finally dimmed, just a fraction. Interesting. Carlyle's voice was quiet. We need to work together. Kaya snapped. Never. Jane smiled. Maybe. Edward's voice was hard. We don't trust you. Arrow looked pleased. Trust is not required. Jin-Woo's gaze flicked away again. Then he said, calm and final, I'm leaving. Arrow's eyes widened slightly. Leaving Volterra? Jin-Woo looked at him. Leaving your game? Arrow's smile returned. But you will return. Jin-Woo didn't answer. He turned to Carlyle. Forks needs eyes. Carlyle nodded, tight. Yes. Jin-Woo looked at Edward. Protect the human. Edward's voice was rough. Always. Jin-Woo looked at Alice. If you can't see me, stop trying. Watch the people around me instead. Alice swallowed and nodded, like the advice hurt, but helped. Jin-Woo stepped backward into a shadow. Then he was gone. Arrow stared at the spot where he vanished. His smile was smaller now, but his eyes were brighter than ever. Fascinating, Arrow whispered. Caius growled. He threatened us. Arrow chuckled softly. Yes. Jane's smile returned. And he meant it. Arrow's gaze drifted to the faint stain on the stone where the gate had been. He's not the only thing that arrived, Arrow murmured. Dmitri frowned. What do you mean? Arrow's voice dropped, almost tender. Something found him, Caius snarled. Then we kill both. Arrow smiled again, calm and certain. No. He turned slowly, robe brushing stone. We watch, Arrow said. We learn. His eyes gleamed. And when the next door opens, he paused, savoring the thought. We make sure it opens where we can control the outcome. Back in Forks, the rain kept falling. The town didn't know it had just been discussed like a piece on a board. Bella sat at her kitchen table, staring at a mug of cocoa she wasn't drinking. Charlie hovered near the sink, pretending to wash a clean plate. Bella's phone buzzed. A text from Edward. We're coming home. Be ready. Bella's heart jumped. Then another message, not from Edward. No name. No number she recognized. Just one line. Tell the shadow man the door is open. Bella's skin went cold. She stared at the message until her eyes hurt. Then she looked out the window. The forest looked the same as always. But Bella knew better now. Somewhere out there, shadows were standing guard. And somewhere else, something had learned how to knock. 2 weeks later, Forks tried to act like it had moved on. The school kept giving out homework. People still complained about rain. Charlie still watched the news at night and shook his head at stories that did not matter. But the woods felt different now. Bella felt it most when she stood at her window and looked at the tree line. The dark looked thicker. Not because the forest changed, because Bella now knew it could hide things that were not meant to be here. Edward came back with the Cullens the day after Bella got that strange text. He did not explain everything at first. He only held Bella's hands and looked at her like he was checking if she was still real. Carlyle spoke with Charlie in the living room, calm as always, saying words like stress and accident and teen panic. Charlie listened, but Bella saw his eyes. He didn't buy it. Not fully. Jacob showed up the next day and did not smile once. He stood on the porch, rain dripping off his hair, and told Bella, "We're watching the woods." Bella asked, "Why?" Jacob's voice went low. "Because something is watching back." That night, Bella finally showed Edward the text. She held out her phone with shaky hands. Edward stared at the screen. His jaw tightened so hard it looked like it hurt. Carlyle read it next. His calm face did not break, but his eyes sharpened. Alice looked over Carlyle's shoulder and let out a small sound, like a gasp swallowed down. Emmett leaned in, squinting. "Okay, who is texting like a horror movie villain?" Rosalie shot him a look that said, "Not funny." Edward turned to Jin-Woo. Jin-Woo stood near the doorway, hands at his sides, calm like always. He looked at the phone, his eyes unfocused for that half-second. Bella almost groaned. Not again. Then he looked back and said, "It's bait." Edward's voice was sharp. "You're sure?" Jin-Woo nodded once. "Yes." Jasper spoke quietly, reading the air. Whoever sent it wanted her scared. Edward's eyes flashed. "It worked," Bella swallowed. "Can you track it?" Jin-Woo's gaze went still. "Maybe." Edward stepped closer, tense. "How?" Jin-Woo didn't act proud about it. He said it like explaining weather. "My shadows can follow places where gate residue is strong. If this message came through a point like that, it leaves a trace." Carlyle's voice stayed calm. "So we watch for another mark." Jin-Woo nodded. "And we don't walk into it blind." That became the new routine. Jin-Woo moved through Forks like a quiet rumor. People did not know his name. They did not know his story. They only knew the roads felt safer at night, in a way they couldn't explain. Edward watched him like a hawk. The wolves watched him like a storm cloud. And Jin-Woo acted like neither group could change what needed to be done. Every evening, when the light faded, Jin-Woo stepped into the forest. Sometimes Edward followed at a distance, not to hunt him, to learn. Jin-Woo didn't talk much during these patrols. He didn't need to. His shadows did the work. In the dark, faint shapes moved between trees, not always visible, but always there. A thin shadow would cling under a branch. Another would slide across the ground like ink. A taller one would stand still behind a trunk, facing outward, like a guard at a door. Jin-Woo kept checking his invisible status. At first it annoyed Edward. It felt like being ignored. Then Edward realized something. Jin-Woo checked his status the way Edward listened to thoughts. It wasn't a hobby. It was how he stayed alive. One night, Emmett came along for exactly 10 minutes before he got bored and started whispering jokes. "So," Emmett said, leaning close to Edward, "does he have a pop-up for new vampire problem detected?" Edward didn't answer. Jin-Woo stopped walking. He didn't turn his head. He simply said, "Your footsteps are loud." Emmett blinked. "You can hear me? With all this rain?" Jin-Woo replied, calm, "Yes." Emmett opened his mouth, then shut it. Then, with forced seriousness, he started stepping like a cartoon ninja. Alice laughed once despite herself, then immediately stopped and looked guilty. Jin-Woo didn't react to the humor, but Bella saw something strange later when Emmett bragged about it. Jin-Woo's mouth twitched again, that tiny, almost smile, like he didn't mind people trying to lighten the air. As the days passed, the town's two hidden groups did something they had never done before. They coordinated, not as friends, not as one team, as two groups that both understood one truth now. If another gate opened near humans, secrecy would die with the humans. Sam Uli came to the edge of Cullen Land one cloudy morning. Jacob stood beside him. Two other wolves hovered behind, tense. Carlyle met them outside. Edward stood with Carlyle stiff. Jin-Woo stood a few steps back, quiet. Sam's eyes moved across the vampires, then landed on Jin-Woo. His voice was serious. "We heard you're patrolling." Jin-Woo nodded once. "Yes." Sam's jaw tightened. "We protect this town." Jin-Woo's voice stayed calm. "Good." Jacob's face twisted. "Don't talk like you're giving us a gold star." Jin-Woo looked at him. "I'm not." Sam took a breath. He held his temper like a leash. "If those things come out again, we want warning." Jin-Woo's eyes flicked away for half a second. Then he said, "You will get it." Edward's eyes narrowed. "How?" Jin-Woo finally looked at Edward. "Shadow on your landline. Shadow on their landline. When a gate pressure rises, you'll feel it." Jacob's lip curled. "We're not letting your dark spirits crawl around our home." Jin-Woo didn't argue. He said, "Then you don't get early warning." Sam shot Jacob a hard look. Jacob looked away. Sam faced Jin-Woo again. "Fine. 1. Far from houses." Jin-Woo nodded. "Deal." Edward watched that exchange and felt a strange, bitter respect. Jin-Woo did not ask for trust. He asked for results. That made him dangerous and useful. That same afternoon, an envelope arrived at the Cullen house. No stamp, no return address. Carlyle opened it carefully. Inside was a letter written in smooth, polite handwriting. Alice read over Carlyle's shoulder and muttered, "He's so dramatic." Edward snatched the letter and read fast. Bella watched his face turn hard. It was from Aro, not a threat, not openly, an invitation. Aro wrote like a person offering friendship. He praised Jin-Woo's remarkable control. He praised the Cullens' responsible hosting. He praised the preservation of secrecy. Then he made the real offer. He wanted Jin-Woo and Volterra again, not as a prisoner. As a guardian, a partner. Edward laughed once, sharp and ugly. "He wants to own you." Jin-Woo read the letter without changing expression. Then his eyes unfocused for that half-second. He looked up and said, "Yes." Rosalie snapped, "So say no." Jin-Woo's gaze stayed steady. "I will." Emmett leaned in. "Can we write back? Dear Aro, no thanks. Please unsubscribe." Carlyle shot Emmett a look. Emmett raised his hands. "What?" "Humor helps." Carlyle turned back to Jin-Woo. "This is not just about you. Aro is testing lines." Jin-Woo nodded once. "Yes." Edward's voice went tight. "If you refuse, he'll threaten Bella." Bella's stomach clenched at her name. Jin-Woo looked at Edward. "Then you protect her." Edward's eyes flashed. "I am. But he will keep pushing." Jin-Woo's voice stayed calm. "Then I push back." That night, Bella couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, listening to Charlie move around the house. He tried to be quiet, but she heard him anyway. A floorboard creaked, then silence, then another creak. Charlie was guarding her the only way he knew how. Bella stared at the ceiling, thinking about a letter in neat handwriting that could kill people. Her phone buzzed. She jerked upright. Another message. Same unknown number. Not the red-eyed king. Not the wolves. Not the cold boy. Bella's throat went dry. "The door is for you, Shadow Monarch." Bella's hands shook so hard she nearly dropped the phone. She didn't read anything else. She ran to the window and opened it. Edward was there instantly, like he had been standing under the trees the whole time. He saw her face and froze. "Bella." She held out the phone. Edward's eyes scanned the text. His expression changed. Not fear, exactly. More like he had just seen a new kind of danger. He whispered, "They know what he is." Bella's voice was shaking. "I didn't tell anyone." Edward looked into the darkness. His voice went low. "Then it's not from here." He moved, not away from Bella, toward the forest, toward the Cullen house. Bella followed, barefoot, not caring about rain. Edward didn't argue this time. He only said, "Stay behind me." At the house, Carlyle was awake. Jasper and Emmett were awake. Alice was awake, eyes wide as if she had felt it coming. And Jin-Woo was already standing in the living room, calm as stone. Bella didn't know how he always knew. Maybe the shadows told him everything. Bella thrust the phone forward. Jin-Woo read the message once. His eyes flicked away. Bella almost shouted, "Stop doing that!" Jin-Woo looked at her. For once, his voice had a hint of something human in it. "Sorry." Then he spoke, quiet and controlled. "They're using your world's tools, phones, signals. That means the residue is close enough to touch your systems." Edward's voice turned sharp. "Where?" Jin-Woo's gaze moved to the window, toward the North Road, toward the place it happened first. "The highway mark," Jin-Woo said. Carlyle's face tightened. "It's reactivating." Jin-Woo nodded once. "Yes." Alice's voice shook. "I saw a flash. The road. People screaming. And black smoke." Emmett muttered. "That's new." Jasper's eyes narrowed. "Not smoke. Shadows?" Jin-Woo's voice stayed flat. "Or something trying to copy my shadows." Silence hit the room. That was worse than monsters. Because monsters were simple. Copying meant planning. Edward's jaw clenched. "We go now." Carlyle nodded. "Yes." Jin-Woo looked at Bella. "Stay." Bella opened her mouth. Edward said, "Bella." Bella's voice broke out, fierce and scared. "I got the messages. They used me to talk to him. How is that not my problem?" Jin-Woo stared at her for a long moment. Then he said, "Calm. It is your problem." Bella went still. Jin-Woo continued, voice steady. "That's why you stay protected. It's not punishment. It's strategy." Bella hated how much sense it made. Carlyle stepped closer to Bella, gentle. "Esme will stay with you, and Charlie is here too." Bella swallowed. "Charlie can't fight monsters." Jin-Woo said, "No, but he can keep you in the house." Emmett muttered, "And he has a gun." Rosalie hissed, "Emmett." Emmett shrugged. "It's a fact." Edward kissed Bella's forehead quickly. "I'll be back." Bella grabbed his sleeve. "Don't be a hero alone." Edward held her gaze. His voice was rough. "I won't." Then they were gone. Carlyle, Edward, Jasper, Emmett, Alice, and Jin-Woo vanished into the night. Bella stood in the living room with Esme and Rosalie, heart racing, listening to the rain. Then the whole world shook. Not an earthquake, a pressure shift, like the air had been pulled tight and released. Bella's breath caught. Esme's face went pale. "Oh no." Rosalie's eyes narrowed. It opened. On the highway, flashing hazard lights appeared like a line of frightened fireflies. A semi-truck had stopped sideways. Several cars were pulled over. People stood in the rain, shouting, confused. Charlie's animal incident lie was about to die. Jin-Woo stood at the edge of the road and looked at the black circle in the mud. It was bigger now. The stain pulsed like a heartbeat. Edward stood beside him, rigid. Carlyle moved closer, calm but fast. Alice whispered, "It's going to blow." Jin-Woo's eyes unfocused. A blue window flashed in front of him. "Gate break, imminent." He spoke once. "Back, all of you." Emmett blinked. "You're ordering us now?" Jin-Woo looked at him. "Yes." Jasper grabbed Emmett's arm and yanked him back before Emmett could argue. Edward didn't move. Jin-Woo glanced at him. "You too." Edward's voice was tight. "If it goes for humans," Jin-Woo answered. Calm. "I know." The stain on the ground ripped open like a mouth. A full gate burst upward, taller than before. Cold rushed out. And with it came monsters. Not just one type this time. Fast ones that ran low to the ground. Tall ones with long arms. And one in the back that moved slow. Watching, like a brain behind the teeth. The humans screamed. Someone ran toward the forest. Someone fell. Jasper was already moving, pulling people away. Carlyle grabbed a woman by the shoulders and guided her behind a car, then used his body to shield her from view. Edward turned into a blur, snapping keys out of ignition, forcing car doors locked, pushing people to safety with a voice that sounded normal. Jin-Woo lifted his hand. Shadows rose, dozens at first, then hundreds. The road became a battlefield, but Jin-Woo made it organized in 2 seconds. Shadows formed walls on both sides of the road to block sight lines. Not a magic fog. Actual bodies and shapes, placed where humans would look. If anyone glanced back, they would see darkness and movement and panic, not clean proof of vampires and monsters. Jin-Woo's voice was calm. Evacuate. Now. His shadows moved like a rescue team. One lifted a crying child and carried him behind a truck. Another held up a falling light pole. 2 shadows formed a bridge with their arms so a group could cross a ditch without slipping. Edward watched, stunned for half a second. Jin-Woo wasn't just fighting, he was managing disaster. Then the brain monster moved. It did not charge Jin-Woo, it charged a human. A man in a raincoat who had frozen in fear near the guardrail. The monster's long arm reached. Edward launched. But the monster was fast enough that even Edward would be late by a heartbeat. Jin-Woo didn't chase. He switched. Shadow exchange. He appeared between the monster and the human. The monster's claw hit Jin-Woo's shoulder. The impact cracked the wet pavement. The human screamed. Jin-Woo didn't move. He turned his head slightly, eyes cold. "Wrong," he said. He grabbed the monster's wrist and twisted. Bones snapped. The monster shrieked. Jin-Woo drove his dagger up under its rib area with one clean strike and yanked out. The creature collapsed. Edward grabbed the human and dragged him away in the same instant, whispering calm words that didn't match the terror. Jin-Woo turned his eyes to the gate. The slow, brain monster stepped forward now. It raised its head and looked at Jin-Woo like it recognized him. Then, impossibly, it spoke in rough, broken English. "Shadow. King." Edward froze. Carlyle's eyes widened. Alice's breath caught. Jin-Woo's face did not change, but inside, something tightened. This wasn't a random creature. This was a messenger. It pointed one long finger toward the gate. "Come," it said. Or, "World. Burns." Jin-Woo stared at it. He understood the threat. Not because of the words, because of the plan. If Jin-Woo left this world to chase them, Forks would be exposed and eaten by politics and monsters. If he stayed, they would keep opening doors until the secret broke and people died. Edward stepped forward, voice like ice. "You don't talk to him." The messenger monster's eyes slid to Edward with mild interest, like Edward was an insect that could still bite. Then it smiled, and the gate pulsed again, like something bigger was pressing from the other side. Jin-Woo's shadows tightened into a line. The messenger took one step back. It didn't look afraid, it looked satisfied, like it had delivered the message. Then it threw something onto the road, a black shard, wet and cold, that landed near the stain. It sank into the mud like it belonged there. The gate steadied, not closing, stabilizing. Alice whispered, voice shaking. "It made it worse." Carlyle's voice was tight. "It anchored it." Edward's jaw clenched. "We have to close it." Jin-Woo nodded. "Yes." He stepped forward. The messenger monster raised its arms like it wanted to fight. Jin-Woo didn't rush it. He said one word. "Arise." The dead monsters around them, those Jin-Woo had already cut down, twitched. Edward's eyes widened. Carlyle went still. Alice stared like she couldn't decide if she was scared or amazed. The fallen creatures rose again, but different. Their eyes went empty. Their bodies darkened. They became shadows. A shadow army made from things that had tried to kill humans. The messenger monster finally looked unsettled. Jin-Woo's voice stayed calm. "You don't get to leave." The messenger tried to run back through the gate. The shadow line closed. Igris stepped out of darkness like a knight appearing from nowhere. He slammed his sword down, blocking the path. The messenger hit the blade like it hit a wall. It snarled. Jin-Woo appeared behind it. One clean strike. The messenger dropped. The gate shuddered hard. For a second, the air screamed with pressure. Then Jin-Woo raised both hands. Shadows surged upward like ropes and chains. They wrapped around the gate's edges, not physical ropes, but solid darkness shaped by will. Jin-Woo pulled. The gate fought back. It pulsed, trying to widen. The anchor shard glowed faintly. Jin-Woo's eyes flicked away for half a second. Edward could almost guess what he saw. A warning, a cost, a limit. Jin-Woo's face tightened. Then he did something Edward did not expect. He didn't push harder by himself. He turned his head and spoke clearly. "Carlyle, Jasper, Emmett, Edward." They all looked at him. Jin-Woo pointed at the anchor shard. "Break it." Emmett blinked. "That I can do." He launched, grabbed the shard, and slammed it into the guardrail. It didn't break. Emmett's eyes widened. "Okay, rude." Jasper appeared beside him and hit it with the full force of vampire strength. Still no break. Edward grabbed it next, teeth clenched and crushed down. The shard resisted like stone resisting a vice. Carlyle looked at Jin-Woo. "It's not normal matter." Jin-Woo nodded. "I know." He stepped closer. His dagger flashed. He stabbed the shard once. The blade sank in like it was cutting into thick rubber. The shard cracked. Emmett hit it again at the exact moment Jin-Woo's blade weakened it. This time, it shattered. The gate screamed. Then it started to collapse. Jin-Woo held it with shadows until it folded inward, like a wound finally closing. The air pressure snapped back to normal. Rain fell through empty space again. The black stain remained, but smaller now. Faint, like a bruise instead of an open cut. Jin-Woo exhaled slowly. He looked at the stain with cold focus. Edward stepped up beside him. "Are there more?" Jin-Woo didn't look away. "Yes." Carlyle's voice was quiet. "And the Volturi will hear about this." Edward's jaw clenched. "Let them." Jin-Woo finally turned his head, gaze steady. "They are not the biggest problem anymore." Alas swallowed. "Then what is?" Jin-Woo's eyes went distant for a moment, not checking his status this time. Listening. Feeling. He spoke, calm and certain. "The ones who can open doors across worlds." Edward's voice was rough. "And what do they want?" Jin-Woo's answer was simple. "Me," he said, "and what I protect." Far down the highway, blue and red lights appeared. Police, ambulances, Charlie. Carlyle's face tightened. "We need to cover this." Jin-Woo raised a hand. Shadows moved, fast and quiet, dragging monster remains into the trees, dissolving them into darkness, where no human eyes would find proof. Edward and Carlyle moved the humans into a tight story. Animal panic, car crash, freak storm. Jasper smoothed fear like he could iron it flat. Alice guided people away from looking too closely. It was ugly, the way they had to lie. But it saved lives in a different way. When the first ambulance arrived, the road looked like a bad accident. Not a war. Charlie stepped out of his cruiser, eyes sharp. He stared at the muddy road, the damaged guardrail, the shaken people. Then his eyes locked on Carlyle. Charlie's voice was low. "What happened?" Carlyle's voice was gentle. "A pileup. Panic. People got lucky." Charlie's gaze slid to Edward, then to the trees. Charlie swallowed. He didn't say what he was thinking, but his eyes said it. Bella was right. This isn't normal. Edward's phone buzzed in his pocket. A message, not from Bella. Edward's eyes flashed as he read it. He turned the screen toward Jin-Woo. One line. You chose the small world. Good. We will keep knocking. Jin-Woo stared at it. His face stayed calm, but his shadow at his feet stretched slightly, like a living thing reacting to anger. Edward's voice was tight. They're not stopping. Jin-Woo nodded once. No. Carlyle stepped closer. Then what do we do? Jin-Woo looked at the faint stain on the road. Then he looked at the forest. Then he looked at Edward, whose fear always circled back to one person. The same thing I always do, Jin-Woo said. He paused. His eyes flicked away for half a second. Then he looked back, steady. I guard the border, he said. I close the doors. I keep people alive. Edward's voice was sharp. And the Volturi? Jin-Woo's gaze went cold. They stay out of my way. Edward stared at him. That's not an answer. Jin-Woo said. Simple. It is. 2 days later, the Volturi came again. Not the whole guard. Not a marching army. Just one figure in a cloak. Dimitri. He waited at the edge of Cullen Land like a messenger standing on a line. Carlyle met him outside. Edward stood near. Jasper and Emmett waited back. Alice watched from a window. Jin-Woo stepped out last, quiet and calm. Dimitri's eyes flicked to Jin-Woo, then away. Like looking at him for too long felt wrong. Dimitri spoke politely. Aro requests your presence. Jin-Woo's voice was flat. No. Dimitri's jaw tightened. He offers protection. Edward let out a short, harsh laugh. Dimitri ignored him and looked at Jin-Woo. For your human connections. Jin-Woo's eyes went still. Threat. Dimitri swallowed. It's not meant that way. Jin-Woo stepped forward one slow step. The air thickened. Dimitri's body tensed, not because he wanted to fight, but because his instincts understood danger. Jin-Woo spoke calmly. Tell Aro this. Dimitri held still. Jin-Woo's voice was quiet, but it carried. Fork stays untouched. No games, no tests, no messages. Edward's eyes widened slightly. Jin-Woo knew about the messages. Of course he did. Jin-Woo continued. If a gate opens, I will close it. If your law gets in the way, your law breaks. Dimitri's face tightened. Aro won't accept threats. Jin-Woo's gaze didn't move. Then Aro learns, I'm not a gift. Carlyle's voice stayed gentle. Dimitri, we want peace. Dimitri looked at Carlyle, conflicted. This is not peace. This is a new power drawing attention. Carlyle nodded. We know. Dimitri looked at Jin-Woo again, uncomfortable. Aro is curious. Jin-Woo answered, Curiosity gets people killed. Dimitri hesitated, then nodded once. I will deliver your message. He turned to go. Then he paused, voice lower. Something is moving through the world. We felt it under our home. Jin-Woo's eyes narrowed. Yes, Dimitri swallowed. If it threatens secrecy, Aro will act. Jin-Woo's answer was simple. He can try. Dimitri left. Edward watched him disappear into the trees. Then Edward looked at Jin-Woo, voice tight. You just declared war. Jin-Woo looked back at him. No. Edward frowned. Then what was that? Jin-Woo's eyes flicked away for half a second. Then he said, Calm. A boundary. Edward didn't like that, but part of him did, because boundaries were something Edward understood. And for the first time since the gates appeared, Edward felt like someone else was carrying weight with him, not replacing him, sharing the load. The next week, Forks had no new gates, no new stains, no new monsters. But it didn't feel peaceful. It felt like the quiet right before the next knock. Jin-Woo used that time the only way he knew how. He trained. not in a gym. In the forest, Edward watched one evening as Jin-Woo faced Igris in a clearing. Igris moved like a disciplined blade. Fast, precise. Jin-Woo matched him without effort, not showing off, just testing timing, angles, control. Edward realized something that made his throat tighten. Jin-Woo wasn't training to beat the Volturi. He was training for something bigger than this world. And yet he stayed. He stayed near a small, rainy town full of secrets and fragile humans. Because he had chosen it. Edward didn't fully trust him. But Edward understood that choice. The rain finally stopped one morning. Not fully. Forks never fully stopped. But the sky turned lighter. The clouds broke enough to show pale blue. Bella stood outside the Cullen house, breathing air that didn't feel so heavy. Edward stood beside her, eyes still watchful, but softer. Carlyle walked down the porch steps and joined them. Bella looked toward the tree line. It feels calmer. Carlyle nodded. Yes. Bella's voice was quiet. Is it over? Edward's jaw tightened. No. Carlyle answered more gently. Not over. But managed. Bella swallowed. Managed by him. Edward didn't deny it. They walked toward the edge of the woods where the ground dipped into ferns and wet soil. Bella paused near a tree and looked down. In the mud, there was a footprint. Not Edward's, not hers. Too clean, too sharp. Then the footprint faded, like it had never been there. Bella's skin prickled. She looked up, scanning the trees. She didn't see anything. But she felt watched, not in a scary way this time, more like someone stood guard. Edward followed her gaze. You feel it? Bella nodded slowly. Carlyle looked into the woods, calm. He's near. Bella's voice came out soft. Does he ever rest? Carlyle smiled faintly. Not the way we do. Edward stared at the dark between trees. He checks that invisible thing like it's breathing. Bella almost laughed. Maybe it is. They stepped farther in, careful. Then Bella saw him. Sung Jin-Woo stood in a clearing, back half turned, looking at nothing again. A tall shadow stood behind him like a silent night. Two more shadows stood farther back, facing outward, like they were guarding the whole forest. Jin-Woo's eyes flicked away for half a second. Then he turned his head slightly, as if he had heard them, even though they walked quietly. He looked at Bella. His face stayed calm. Bella swallowed and stepped forward one small step. Hi, she said. Jin-Woo nodded once. Hello. Edward stayed tense beside her. Carlyle stepped forward, gentle. How are the marks? Jin-Woo's gaze went to the ground. Quiet. Carlyle nodded. Good. Bella held Jin-Woo's gaze for a moment, then said what she had carried for days. Thank you, she said. Jin-Woo blinked once. For what? Bella's voice was simple. For not letting people die. Jin-Woo stared at her, like he didn't know what to do with the words. Then his eyes flicked away again. When they returned, his voice was quiet. It's my job. Bella shook her head slightly. Not here. Here you didn't have to. Jin-Woo's face stayed still, but something in his eyes shifted, like he heard the real point. Carlyle spoke softly. Power doesn't decide who you are. Jin-Woo looked at Carlyle. Carlyle continued, calm. What you protect does. Jin-Woo was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded once. Yes. Edward watched him, still wary. Jin-Woo looked at Edward. His voice stayed calm. Keep the humans safe. Edward's jaw tightened, but his answer came without thinking. Always. Bella exhaled. For the first time in weeks, she felt like the air in her chest could move. Jin-Woo turned back toward the trees. His shadows shifted like silent soldiers adjusting their stance. He looked at nothing one last time, not for jokes, not to ignore them, to check the border. Then he walked deeper into the forest, and the shadows moved with him, quiet and loyal, like the world had a new kind of guard now. Forks stayed wet. Forks stayed secret. But it was no longer undefended.